Hello, friends and bees and friends who are also bees. Welcome to this week's Higurashi When They Cry Tsukiotoshi stream. This week we are going to be continuing on from last week, obviously. Astonishingly, despite it only having been a week, my brain is completely empty, but as I remember, last week Shion and Reina and Keiichi made the decision to kill what's-his-face, Satoko's uncle, on the night of Higurashi, and instantly, on like the same day they were making those plans, fell into a pit of mistrust and suspicion. So without further ado, let's swap over to the gameplay and make sure that has paused, it has, and let us load straight in. I, as usual, am super tired and super out of it, so we'll see how this goes. I said we were going to hop straight in, and then I got distracted trying to... waiting for Streamlabs to catch up. Oh well, let's actually hop in. Yes, load data. That fateful morning, I awakened to the sound of the fireworks that signified the opening of the festival. My entire body was filled with strength. I held a hand to my mouth because I couldn't help but laugh. A nutrient called hatred engorged my murderous intent. Pros. I skillfully concealed my beastly fangs as I opened the window. The sky was covered in thick clouds, signifying that a storm was approaching. Also, as usual, my second monitor is misbehaving, keeps turning itself on and off. So, like, just a warning in case I panic and go, ah, shit, there we go. I have to, use my phone for, chat. Thick clouds, signifying that a storm is approaching. The stage has been set. Maybe his death cries will be drowned out by the clamour of the storm. I can't wait for the exciting finale. We haven't got violent yet, but I'm presaging that it's going to happen, and so I put a content warning in the title because I know what I'm about. As I made my way to the living room, Mum and Dad were having a relaxing coffee. When they saw me, they said good morning to me like usual. Hate you, bloody edgelord. And I said good morning back to them, like usual. That casual exchange felt so peaceful, but at the same time, I was keenly aware of the darkness eroding the inside of my heart. Thanks for the food. The dining table was surrounded... sorry, bear with 2 seconds. There we go. The dining table was surrounded in harmony. My heart ached as I looked at my parents and saw that they knew nothing. Sorry. The Keiichi that the two of you toiled to raise properly is already gone. And I'm the one who erased him. I shoveled the food into my mouth to take my mind off the regrets. Then I ravenously chewed it to stave off my anxiety. There goes my monitor! I could feel my eyes glistening. Hello, yes, I would like to look at my own Twitch chat, please. Okay. I could feel my eyes glistening with murderous intent. I wiped the drool from my lips, then slowly rose to my feet. Thanks for making breakfast. I need to get going now. I headed straight towards the entrance without hesitation. 3 folding shovels were hidden in my backpack. Shovels that were bought to go camping as a family. Nobody could ever imagine that they'd be used as tools to commit a murder. I opened the door. I looked back just once and bid farewell to the life I'd been living up until now. Then I made up my mind and took the first step down the road in front of me. The door closed behind my back. There was no longer a gentle cradle for me to lie in. Rejection and acceptance parted ways here, and would never meet again. Mum, Dad, I'm no longer a person. I'm going to be a murderer. Then I cut off that train of thought. The constant self-torture and futile idealism were no longer necessary. I just needed to be dedicated to what I desire. Farewell. That word was aimed at myself as well. I muttered that quietly, then sat down on my bike and started pushing the pedals. I let loose on my bike and flew past the dense forest on the way to the garbage mountain. I passed by a group of cheerful-looking kids along the way. They must be on their way to the shrine. A version of Satoko overlapped on their smiling faces. I bet the Fudo shrine grounds will look gorgeous, fully decorated in a clear sunset, covered in festive red and white curtains and filled with so many hanging lanterns. The hum of the generators powering the street stalls, the voices of the children running about, and families smiling while watching it all. Today was the day of Higurashi. Okay, sorry. Stupid monitor. Ugh, why do you do this to me now? Every day I must suffer because of my second monitor not working. Today the Higurashi festival. I wonder if everyone is already playing around out there. But what about Satoko? I hope she'll be able to forget about those painful days soon. I wonder how long it will be until she can show off that dazzling smile. My legs were filled with strength as I pushed the pedals. As I clenched the handlebars, I could see the blood flowing through my veins on the pale white surface of my hands. I needed that new blood. I felt an uncanny sense of omnipotence driving me. That invincible feeling boosted me forward, as a tailwind blew behind me. Suddenly, I felt a lifelike sensation on my back. Onward, onward, with two hands pushing on my back, pushing me forward, towards the end of the world. Dun dun dun. When I travelled through the garbage mountain and entered the station wagon, Reina and Shion were already waiting for me. Good morning, Keiichi. Good morning. Did you sleep well? Did you? Yeah, I had a really deep sleep for the first time in ages. Like I cast the demons out of me. Thud. After closing the door of the station wagon, an eerily oppressive sensation enveloped us. We couldn't help but tense up. Everyone forgot how to breathe. Sweat steadily poured out of me. The tense air filled the car and circled about, with no exit. The preparations already complete. A single rope was resting in front of Reina and Shion. It was painted black as we planned. Next to that was Satoshi's bat. I took the shovels out of my backpack and lined them up side by side. These three tools were gathered to open the path to our future. They had a profound presence, like three sacred treasures used in a ritual. A sound reminiscent of rusted metal faintly rang out. My body was growing more sensitive to the tension, so I jumped. Did anyone hear a sound just now? Huh? What? Reina and Shion tilted their heads and exchanged glances. That would be Hanyu, I suppose. Was that my imagination? I looked around inside the car. Then I noticed a huge black duffel bag hiding behind Reina. What's inside of there? Huh? I heard a sound coming from inside that bag. What are you talking about? I didn't hear any sound. You're sure you're not hearing things, Keiichi? Then show me what's inside. Keiichi, you're acting kind of scary. I told you to show me. What's going on? You're scaring Reina. I'm sure I heard something. There was no sound. Shion stood in the way to shield Reina. Out of the way, Shion. No, I won't. You're acting weird, Keiichi, and your face is terrifying. Does Keiichi have the spooky eyes? I don't think we've ever seen him with spooky eyes. Rika has her own version of them, and I've not yet seen Satoko with them. Satoko or Rika with the spooky eyes would be very good, though. Stupid question, why are scabs so itchy? Reina and Shion banded together like they were contemplating an escape. They looked completely terrified as they stared at me. What's with you guys? A line of sweat dripped down my back. The pressure building up inside my body released a chill that ran along my skin, causing me to shiver. I slowly grabbed hold of Satoshi's bat. Open it. Reina's eyes were moist from the fear that she couldn't hold back, but I urged her once more to open the bag. Reina looked nervous as she slowly unzipped the duffel bag. I swallowed my saliva in one huge gulp. Then she pulled out the contents of the bag. A set of 5 stacking boxes. The brain is special. All strength left my body at once. I struggled to avoid collapsing to the ground. Because if we spend all day digging a big hole, surely we'll all get hungry. Then why didn't you just show me right away? We're sweating like mad over here. I'm sorry, Keiichi. No, I'm sorry for yelling at you. Rena was pleasantly smiling. She looked relieved. I smiled back at her, though it betrayed the thoughts swirling around inside my head. That sound earlier, it couldn't have come from that zipper. It was a much stronger sound, with a much more destructive power behind it. A sound that pierced all the way through to my brain. It seemed like a sign, like it was trying to tell me something. Maybe my conscience was telling me I should turn back right away. Maybe I just didn't want to look ahead. Maybe I wanted to plug my ears and shut it out. Pardon me. I double-checked our preparations while packing the tools into my backpack. I could hear the cicadas crying far off in the distance. Then we all glanced at one another and rose to our feet. Let's go. We quietly crawled out of the station and carefully made our way over the garbage mountain, one hiccup at a time. Looking back, even though the station wagon was maintaining its balance on unstable footing, I could see it lightly shaking, a sign that it was on the verge of collapse. I tried to shake off the disturbing thoughts running through my mind as we enthusiastically pushed through the garbage mountain. We decided to hide the corpse in a deep, deep forest past the canopy of trees. It was uncharted territory, the kind that wards off entry. It seemed like a miracle that we were able to travel here from the garbage mountain without anyone seeing us. When I looked up at the sky, I saw a thick, dark cloud that helped conceal our presence. All right, even the heavens are on our side. Motorcycle outside says vroom vroom. This looks like a good spot. I stabbed my shovel down at the point Shion indicated. It's like a grave marker. For him, yeah, but for us it's more like a monument. Tonight will be his final night, and then we can celebrate this day every year. We can take pride in it as the anniversary of the day that we made the right choice. Let's dig. Put my strength into my fingertips and pierce the surface of the soil over and over again. Shion and Reina joined in without saying a word, unrelentingly digging into the dirt with our hearts full of hatred. Our shovels pierced the ground at shallow angles. We insatiably dug at the dry soil. Reina suddenly let out a soft laugh. Reina? Well, around this time last year. Reina looked far off in the distance. Reina met Satoko at the garbage mountain. I was so lonely at the time, feeling lost and crying alone. And Satoko saw me like that. Reina timidly shrugged her shoulders as she wiped the sweat from her forehead. I smiled and told her nothing was wrong, but Satoko looked so worried. And then she started to cry. She said, I can't help but cry if Reina's crying, so the two of us cried together. As we cried, she told me she knew what it was like to cry alone and not be able to stop herself. When I saw Satoko like that, Reina suddenly began to smile. I thought she was so cute and innocent that I suddenly stopped crying. And then I felt happy and laughed out loud. Satoko seemed confused at first, but she was able to laugh along with me. The two of us were shouting, ah ha 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 ha, doing the Titus laugh, at the top of our lungs, non-stop. I was thinking back on that moment just now. Sounds like Satoko, all right? For some reason, Shion's expression clouded over for a moment. Back then, Satoko was suffering even more than Reina. I thought back on how powerless I felt earlier and put a hand on Reina's shoulder. That was the past. This is now. We're doing this together for the sake of the future, right? That's right. Reina let out a quiet ee-hee-hee to herself and picked up a shovel again. We continued tirelessly digging the hole. The dirt we dug out was really starting to pile up. Just as the hole grew deeper and deeper, the pile grew bigger and bigger. Looking down the hole was like staring into the darkness of the abyss, like gazing into a black hole. I was likely to get sucked in if I didn't keep my wits about me. I took a deep breath, wiped the sweat away, and picked up the shovel. The sweat was beading into globs on my forehead. A dull pain coursed through my biceps. A refreshing breeze blew overhead, giving us the boost we needed to maintain our rhythm. After letting out that exclamation, Shion looked up towards the sky. Then her eyes began to wander. Shion? Reina and I stopped digging and looked up. I felt like someone patted my head just now. Shion closed her eyes and stiffened her expression as she said that. Then, I could hear her shouting something, mixed in with her sobbing voice. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Shion? Suddenly, Shion began to scream. She scratched at her hair, then covered her mouth with both hands and began trembling. Shion! What's wrong? I threw my shovel down and put my hands on her shoulders. But she pushed me away immediately and incoherently mumbled to herself. Shion? I'm definitely going to be killed. Huh? The curse of Oyashiro-sama will strike me down. That's how things will end for me. It's too late to change it. I can't change anything, can I? Shion, what are you saying? You're not going to be killed. Teppei is the one who's gonna die. That's right. Oyashiro-sama's curse shouldn't affect Shion. I'm not the sort of person everyone thinks I am. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible person. Shion wore a vacant expression with an empty look in her eyes.
Come on in, Chuck. Come on in.
Hello, Fionel. Thank you very much for the raid. It is very much appreciated. Yes. How are you? I hope you are doing well. I hope you are having a good day. I'm gonna chug some water because I'm bloody boiling. Hello, Pythagoras. How are you? I hope you're having a good, I know how to speak words. Hello, friends from Crazy Stream, Thionel Stream. If you don't know me, my name is Mochi. I'm a variety streamer, and at the moment I am streaming Higurashi When They Cry, which is, in this case, a game about murdering your friend's abuser, so that they'll be free of them. Right? Exactly, Eris. So I just want to warn you about that, because that's why I've got the violence content warning in the title, because there is almost definitely going to be violence coming soon. So, just warning you now. At the moment, our three main characters are digging a hole to hide a body in, so just warning you at the outset. Anyway, hello, how are you? Thank you again for the raid, Kleiner. Stop it, Shion. You're not a bad person. You're doing the right thing, so there's no reason for you to feel guilty. Shion slowly shook her head. No, I'm the worst. I've always been so much worse than this. I've done terrible things. Hee hee. Shion, what are you talking about? The truth is, I actually hated Satoko. A line of tears ran down Shion's cheeks as she squeezed those words out. Always clinging to Satoshi, always depending on him. I resented her for receiving all of his love and affection and taking it for granted. Honestly, I was envious. Satoko was always able to stay by his side. As I grew to like Satoshi more and more, my hate for Satoko grew out of beyond control. Huge tears began pouring out of Shion's eyes. She collapsed to the ground with both her hands in the dirt, then fiercely wiped the corner of her eyes with her muddy hands. Deep in my heart, I wished that Oyashiro-sama really exists. Satoko should be the next one to suffer. Shion, you... That means Oyashiro-sama is definitely real, right? Because nothing could ever cause Satoko as much suffering as Satoshi's disappearance. Even if we can't see it, it doesn't overlook a single word we say. It reads our minds, knowing everything we're thinking. That's right. Oyashiro-sama exists. Reina muttered that quietly, but with conviction in her voice. Reina and Shion's interactions around Yashiro-sama are really interesting, and it's why I desperately want to play Hinamizawa Bus Stop, which is like the beta version of what would become Higurashi, because I'm pretty certain it's features the two of them and is to do with that. But unfortunately I have not been able to find it translated anywhere, which is incredibly annoying. Reina muttered that quietly, but with conviction in her voice. Watching over us, even now. We all fell silent, like we were all chained down or nailed in place. The cicadas cried out as if to laugh at us. A gust of wind blew by, causing the weeds by our feet to hum. I sensed a shadow moving closer to us, quickly and nimbly, moving like a whip, making the sound of footsteps in the vicinity. An eerie, out-of-place feeling ran through my entire body, like some kind of parasite was trying to worm its way inside me, little by little. You know what, I'm going to up the spook factor for myself by turning the lights off. It's less spooky than it was in my old flat, because I do live with someone now at the top floor of an apartment building rather than in the middle floor of a house. But seeing as we're going back to typical classic Higurashi horror, up the spook factor. Some kind of parasite was trying to worm its way inside me, little by little. Wink. My throat felt incredibly thirsty. I felt an irresistible urge to scratch my entire body. Wink. These hallucinations were taking root deep inside me. Did something possess me to make me jump at shadows like this? I instinctively resumed digging the hole, hoping to shake off the fear stirring in my heart. Sorry, I don't believe in supernatural stories, but I believe in both of you. We'll rescue Satoko with our own hands. That's the only thing I'm thinking about right now. My heart felt like it was about to shatter right then and there. I was afraid to stop moving my hands. Eventually, Shion slowly rose up to evaluate the situation. Then she took a shovel in hand, stood next to me, and began digging into the ground. Shion. Keiichi, I finally woke up thanks to you. I thought that saving Satoko would be a way to atone for Satoshi. But now I think that was a mistake. I didn't want to become like Satoko. I wanted to be like Satoshi. So now I want to become more like Satoshi by helping Satoko. Shion smiled in my direction with her face caked in mud. That expression reflected the weight that had been lifted off her shoulders from speaking her heart. For all the talking we do, we never communicate our real intentions, leaving behind gaps that clearly need filling. Sorry. Okay, sorry, I got confused because I did not see Mochi-bot posting earlier, and was like, is it dead? If I were ever to speak my true intentions so clearly, I fear my very existence would completely dry up. I was terrified of the madness it would entail. In an effort to avoid their gaze, I stepped into the hole and started digging from within. I feared that I'd start to cry if I didn't focus on digging. I couldn't let these sentimental feelings sweep me away. It's the same for me. That's why I have to help Satoko. For Satoshi's sake. As much as I resent Satoshi, I need to overcome my fear and finish this. Don't say you resent Satoshi around Shion. Bad idea. Reina and Shion both followed my lead and climbed into the hole to start digging. Get in the hole, Shinji. There was no need for anyone to say anything more. We all kept quiet and the sweat kept flowing as we tirelessly toiled to dig the hole deeper. We all had thoughts locked away in our hearts. Wicked, forbidden thoughts. Even though we all noticed, we dared not ask one another. Even if we asked ourselves, there would be no answer. Our current cause was a righteous one, helping a friend, so there was no reason to waver. Any feelings of repentance would only shake our will to carry out this murder. Isn't that the case? All human beings have traces of something truly rotten buried deep within them. Luckily, some people are fortunate enough to live a carefree life and die in peace without ever sensing the smell of corruption emanating from them. Yet anyone who realises it on their own, or is otherwise made aware of it, will be able to see the hell waiting for them after the corruption spreads. How ironic. Any attempt to hide it only causes the wound to spread instead of healing. Like this hole. Then someday, we'll be decaying too. very emo. Before we realised it, the sun was already starting to set. It pierced through the thick clouds to shine down on us. I looked up at the sky from the dusky base of the hole. Think this'll do it? On my signal, we all crawled out of the ground. We dug quite a lot. I threw my shovel down, then crouched down to examine the hole. The shape was a little weird since we were digging from 3 different points, but the hole ended up deeper than I expected. I've just realised something, which is that because I've been reading a lot of I've been reading a lot of epic recently for 2 of my classes, and B, I have been training myself back into how to read Greek, ancient Greek, not modern Greek, and like working out how to read that as well. The way that I've started like reading stuff out loud is very different. My brain's like, okay, time to go to hexameter. Which is not always easy, but there we go. It seemed big enough to hide a single corpse. My intense breathing seemed to get sucked into the depths of the hole. The shovel slipped out of Raina's hand and rolled into the hole. She must have been exhausted. Oh, what to do? Raina did something foolish. Raina stretched her hand out to pick up the shovel, but she couldn't reach. It was so far down in the darkness that it was hard to make out its shape. Guess there's no other choice. I'll hop down and grab it. Yeah, we can't leave any evidence behind. Sorry, Keiichi. Don't worry about it. I put my hands on the edge of the hole and jumped down in a single fluid motion. I botched the landing and fell down inside the hole. The taste of the dirt swelled inside my mouth. I spit it out right away and searched for the shovel. Right away, my fingertips felt something cold and metallic. Then I grabbed the shovel and rose to my feet. But that moment, I heard that sound again. The same one I heard inside the station wagon. Then I heard something after all. But Raina and Shion were talking up above with little regard for me or that sound. I strained my ears. With my entire body focused on listening, I was able to pick up a few words from their conversation. Keiichi, my name. Mistake. Keiichi, my name. Mistake. Kill? What are they talking about? Doesn't know. Pathetic. What do they mean by that? They're talking about me? What? From before. The hate. Who? What is this? So those guys have... No, since the beginning they've... Unable to hold it in any longer, a groan leaked from my mouth. Doesn't know anything? Would I anyway? Their conversation reeked with an unsettling stench. I was no longer able to gauge their true intentions. Right away I began to feel distant. Good old Hinamizawa syndrome. Are they organising another plan without my knowledge? Do they not want me involved in their plan, or maybe their plan has already been set in motion? All the questions crawling around in my head prevented me from thinking calmly. I took a deep breath, hoping to clear my head. Where on earth am I? Where on earth have I gone? Where am I being taken? Suddenly, the falling sunset was obstructed by 2 shadows. Keiichi, did you find it? When I cautiously lifted my head, I saw Raina and Shion looking down at me with innocent smiles on their faces. What's wrong? Your face looks kind of pale. Keiichi, here, grab Raina's hand. Raina reached out to me with a concerned expression, but I hesitated for a moment, wondering whether it was okay to take that hand. I'm so itchy. I hate warmth. I hate summer. I hate heat. It's not even summer yet. It's the middle of April. I'm dying. TMI time. So I started a new medication a couple of weeks ago, which is applied through transdermal patch, which means it gets really, really warm and gross and itchy, on top of the fact that I'm already allergic to the adhesive. And I actually got heat rash. I guess from it was one of the days I went out, I was running errands, I think, so I guess just that alone gave me heat rash, and now I'm like, I have to die. The thing is, it was fine until recently, and then just because it started getting warmer, I'm like, ugh, I have to die. I think I'm gonna get some medical tape that's definitely not acrylic adhesive and start using that. Was that a hallucination earlier? It must be a hallucination. Reina and Shion have no reason to betray me. Really? Was it really a hallucination? Stop it. Don't try to fill my mind with doubts. Don't listen. Even though we planned everything out, discord was running rampant. That incomprehensible question. Those two eyes. The shadows following behind. The silent phone call. Wicked secrets. And the two hands of Oyashiro-sama. Any time I do something, one more thread pulls loose. I've been desperately trying not to look at it. That's right, it's got to be a hallucination. As I said that, the small amount of guilt in my heart was able to release. This is my curse. My curse for abandoning my humanity. Keiichi? Reina had an uneasy expression, but I smiled at her and grabbed her hand. Ready and heave. My body floated upwards as Reina's hands tugged at me. The scene before my eyes looked like a kaleidoscope. Looking up at the sky, the clouds covering the area had already begun to scatter. The storm I saw earlier surely wasn't approaching. So the scenario I constructed was already being rewritten. Am I just a puppet, dancing according to someone else's script? Yes. It's about time. Perhaps sensing my apprehension, Shion chimed in to remind us of our time limit. I couldn't think any longer. I was tired. So now, I just followed after Reina and Shion as they pressed onward. Long boy. Without knowing what will be waiting for us ahead. Tonight, all of this will reach its conclusion. I repeat, dun dun dun. We opened the door to the phone booth, intent on enticing Teppei out of his home. The phone booth was a short ways down the road, standing alone on the edge of the forest. It would disappear into the darkness of the night if not for the streetlight brightly shining down on it to highlight its presence. What is a phone booth doing in a place like this? I asked once and was told they installed it so people who noticed a forest fire could call it in, or people experiencing trouble in the forest could call for help. When I carefully focused my hearing, I felt like I could hear someone calling for help. The source of that voice must be Satoko, I thought to myself as my body started to heat up. I wanted to help Satoko as soon as possible. No matter how much anxiety it induced, no matter what doubts arose from it, that was my unshakable conviction. Over time, that belief spread to every corner of my body, slowly growing stronger and eventually taking control of me. That intense conviction dominated my thoughts and even my free will. I had clearly become a puppet. I picked up the phone receiver to make sure the line was connected, then closed the door at once. Shion brushed the mud off her wristwatch and indicated the time. Still too early. We elected to hide in the shady grass while waiting for the moment of fate. The silence seemed to last an eternity. The weight of that silence deepened our bonds. Our eyes didn't cross paths. We just waited motionlessly, clinging to our murderous intent. Pardon me. We should eat the dinner I made. Reina broke the silence and pulled out the boxes. I wasn't hungry. Just hearing that at a time like this took the wind out of my sails. Well, Reina is eccentric enough for something like this. I said that we'd get hungry at some point, didn't I? Let's use this opportunity to replenish our energy. Reina thrust a pair of chopsticks toward me, then nonchalantly rolled out a handkerchief and opened the box. Might as well take the opportunity while we still can. Shion snapped her chopsticks apart, then gleefully reached for a side dish. It's delicious. Really? I'm glad to hear it, Shion. We got up early and we've been working tirelessly all day. Thank you, Reina. Shion and Reina smiled happily while eating their food. I was dumbfounded by the latent power inside these creatures they call women. As I vacantly watched the two of them, I thought back. Mum was taking care of a cute bird last year, but it died of an unforeseen illness. She silently embraced its body, then cried for a long time. I didn't know what to say, so I just avoided going near her. At that moment, there was an out-of-place growl in the room. It was Mum's stomach. Mum then smiled with embarrassment, rose to her feet and quickly started making dinner. Don't be stupid. Even if you're not hungry, you still have to eat. We're humans. We'll die if we don't eat. Mum's words replayed as if they were encouraging me. So I snapped my chopsticks apart, wanting to hold on to whatever vestiges of humanity I had left before they completely faded. Alright, Keiichi, have some onigiri. The onigiri Reina offered me was decorated with thin sliced egg and sakura starch. The delicate pattern was as pleasing on the eyes as it was on the stomach. But for me right now, I couldn't see it as anything but a huge lump of rice. Even though I managed to lift it close to my mouth, I stopped myself before taking a bite. Is it not to your liking? That's not it. It looks delicious. Thanks for the food. Of course. Please, go ahead and eat. I forced my mouth open and twisted the onigiri inside. It had no scent, no taste. It felt like I was grinding signs inside my mouth. I was attacked with nausea on several occasions, but I persisted and continued chewing. Oh, what a mood! It's like my number one sensation related to most food is now I feel sick, but I have to eat, or I will die. Keiichi, you think Reina's onigiri tastes bad, don't you? No way, it tastes fine. I'm just feeling a little nervous. Really? I didn't want to hurt Reina's feelings, so I flashed her a V for victory hand signal. Thank goodness. Reina looked relieved as she took another onigiri out of the box. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure if I can take any more. Perhaps the prayer in my heart made it through. She moved the onigiri right past me and held it out to Shion. Please, try some onigiri, Shion. There's tuna inside. For some reason, Shion just shook her head and stared at the onigiri. You don't like onigiri? That was made from canned tuna, right? No way, I hate that. Reina was shocked by that sudden rejection. I'm sorry, Reina, but I just can't eat canned food. I don't even want to look at it. Why? Well, it's just that I heard an awful rumour a long time ago. Sorry, would you mind cleaning that up as soon as possible? Once Shion said that, Reina and I looked at each other and kept silent. Then we silently ate our food without bothering to taste it. Fun fact, Shion's horrible rumour that she heard is that when there was a famine, there was human meat inside canned food, and apparently she heard that and ever since then has hated canned food, which is also a rumour or like an urban legend that I heard, and it hasn't stopped me because canned food is the best. Canned fish, the best thing that's ever happened to me. We love to put canned fish and pesto sauce through some pasta and then you've got dinner. That's exactly what I had for dinner tonight, because I just could not face making any actual food that didn't involve sitting there boiling or stirring. Once we finished the food, it was already a few minutes past the time we planned to make our call. We rushed over to the phone booth, worrying that the plan was already falling apart. Reina let out a quick giggle. I envied Reina's peculiar ability to laugh like normal in a situation like this. It's like the three of us are playing a game of Oshikura Manju. The three of us were competing for limited space inside the telephone booth. It was far over capacity, so Reina and I stepped out. By the way, do you know if Satoko actually went to the festival? Yeah, Reina asked Riko to take her there. There's no chance that Teppei would stop her from going. He was reluctant, but apparently he agreed to it. I see. Then it'll be fine. That meant Teppei was all alone. Our intense will was like telepathy, manipulating him from afar. I took that as a good omen and kept it in mind like I was clutching a charm. All right, I'll give him a call. Shion gave us a determined look as she lifted the receiver. Then she looked up at the ceiling for a while, perhaps trying to recall the Hodra family's phone number. I put a hand on the door and blankly stared at Shion through the glass. The fluorescent lights inside the phone booth reflected along the walls, making Shion's face look twisted. Shion's slender fingers slowly turned the dial. Eventually, I could faintly hear it ringing. I was ensnared by that inorganic sound. It was like my brain had shut off. I lost all my sense of my surroundings. I felt like I was drifting alone. I had a sudden thought about how telephone booths always seem to play such a key role in these. I'm not sure if they do in the Neon Shion one, but like telephone booth played a fundamental role in Takano's like origin story, and also the really memorable ending of Onikakushi Hen is Keiichi calling the police from this very telephone booth and then being found having scratched his throat out. I think it's also around here that the photographer who's Tomitake is found. It was like my brain had shut off. I lost all sense of my surroundings. I felt like I was drifting alone. Even if he doesn't answer, we've already confronted him. I felt the desire to commit murder building up inside of me. Yes? When the ringing finally stopped, I heard Teppei's sluggish voice. Is this Mr. Hojo's residence? Shion quickly turned her gaze downward, trying to keep calm. That's right, but what's this about? This is Okonomiya police station. Pardon me, but is this Mr. Teppei Hojo? Yeah, it is, but... I could hear Teppei grow flustered and humbled when he heard it was the police. Hearing him that insignificant in person, it felt good. I believe Stoker Hojo was under your care there. What? Stoker? What did that brat do? Teppei seemed to be getting worked up without realizing that this was a trap. Shion calmly continued, leaving little room to doubt her words. I can explain the particulars once you've arrived here. Would you mind coming to the station right away? Right now? I was in the middle of taking a bath. I knew that without needing to be told. We researched Teppei's day-to-day habits and learned he always took a bath around this time. Right on schedule. The plan was still on track. That conviction caused my heart to race. Besides, I was planning to go to bed soon, so I don't want to go all the way out there. Teppei was making excuses to avoid coming down, as though he found it a pain. Is that so? If you're unable to come here, we'll send someone there to pick you up? What is that supposed to mean? The courts have already completed the paperwork. By tomorrow morning? You mean a search warrant? Shion's bluff caused Teppei to raise his voice. If you really think about it, there's no way the police would give someone prior notification before conducting a search. Did Teppei have something to hide from the police? Or was he just a weak-minded coward? Either way, he was shamelessly panicking about it. Understood. I'll head there right away. No need to get more people involved, please. Very well. We'll be waiting. Click. Shion let out a deep sigh after hanging up the receiver. Then she turned to face us. All right, it's showtime. We gazed at one another and silently nodded. Words were no longer necessary. After this, I'll take Teppei Hojo's life with my own hands. We rushed in the direction of the Hojo house at full speed. Shion went ahead of us on her scooter to handle preparations at the scene, while Reina and I were en route. Teppei would probably take the time to change his clothes and maybe have a cigarette, but time was of the essence. Our plans would amount to nothing if Teppei somehow managed to sneak by us and make it to town. It would undo everything we set in motion. We have to stop him, no matter what it takes. In my impatience, my feet managed to miss the pedals on several occasions. My bike made an unpleasant thump each time. I occasionally glanced behind me. Reina was frantically pedaling a short distance behind. She had a demon-like appearance. Perhaps she just noticed me looking at her, because her expression quickly morphed into an eerie smile. It was our mission to rescue a lonely girl from a hardship. It was our duty to restore the smile to our classmate's face. Reina's face seemed distorted by the clash of those two ideals. Our ideal future. The overwhelming power of those words seemed to cast a shadow on our surroundings for a moment. Rushing to the scene at full speed, we passed by several families dressed in yukata. They must be on their way to the festival. Even though I didn't recognize them, these were people from Hinamizawa, so there was a good chance they'd recognize my face. Just passing by them like this was filling my heart with dread. But this wasn't my part of town, so there was a chance they didn't know me. Plus, I looked at all their faces, and it was clear they were focused entirely on the festival, since it happens only once a year. They weren't paying the least bit attention to someone sticking to the shadows like me. Enough. There's no sense worrying about that now. It's far too late for that. Anyway, we have to arrive at the scene as quickly as possible. I took a moment to catch my breath before preparing for the ambush. Keiichi, this way. Shion was already at the scene. She whispered and beckoned us towards her with a hand signal. Teppei hasn't arrived yet. The preparations are already complete. When I gazed off into the distance, I could see a black rope lying across the road. I took Satoshi's bat out of my backpack and wiped the sweat away with my sleeve, then gripped it tightly. Reina, please handle the other side of the rope. Yeah. Reina bowed to Shion, then moved to the shadows on the other side of the road. The voice of the crickets rang out, seeming to laugh at me for using barbarism in the name of justice. Like a warning, or maybe applause. Fire and water were falling together, a bizarrely balanced contradiction. The silence was suddenly torn apart, bringing me back to reality. I heard it again, the same sound I heard inside the station wagon, and then at the bottom of the hole. I haven't been able to approximate a sound effect for it. It sounds like a ring, but I don't like a bell ringing, I guess, but I don't really, or metal clashing on each other. I don't really have anything that can approximate that. No, just tapping on my phone does not. Whatever. Imagine a bell ringing. I looked behind me with my eyes open wide. Then I found Shion holding the source of that noise. Shion, what is that? It's a stun gun. She held up the stun gun so I could see the pale light emanating from it, with a fearless smile on her face. The current drew sparking lights as it made that disturbing noise. Why? I felt awkward about making you kill him all on your own, Keiichi. Plus, I need to be certain that he's killed properly. I realised that Shion's true intentions leaned more towards the latter. In other words, she didn't trust me to get the job done. I suddenly recalled that secret conversation I heard at the bottom of the hole. Doesn't know anything. Will die anyway. Shion's murderous intent was growing, but maybe it wasn't directed at Teppei alone, but me as well. I would argue that it's instead, we have to make sure that Teppei doesn't know anything by stunning him, perhaps. He's going to die anyway, sort of thing. I don't think they're aimed at Keiichi. Why? Shion was doubting my willingness to carry out the murder. If I lost my will and tried to run away at the last minute, she'd kill me without hesitation. She wanted to bury any evidence, setting up a backup plan to handle the worst-case scenario. Every hair on my body stood on end when I realised how ruthlessly calculating she must have been to plan that out. Sorry for keeping it a secret. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt your pride. Please, forgive me. She turned and smiled towards me, and gently placed a hand on my shoulder as if trying to calm me down. My entire body recoiled like I was being electrocuted. Are you okay? Shion looked concerned, but the value of that expression was destroyed by the threatening atmosphere. I turned towards Reina, seeking help. Then, in the darkness, I saw Reina pull a shadowy object from her duffel bag. It was a massive hatchet. Reina lifted the hatchet and moved into position to wait for our target. So good. Reina with the hatchet. Although I always it's translated as a hatchet, which in English tends to mean an axe, but the imagery I've always had of Reina is that it's more like a meat cleaver or like a giant knife. There's a very good chance that I'm wrong about that, but you know, everyone's decked out with their weapons: a stun gun, a baseball bat, and a cleaver. Walk into a bar. Both of Reina's eyes were flashing red. Even Reina was hiding thoughts of betrayal behind an innocent face. Reina feels the same way I do, but she also made it clear that she intends to verify his blood is red. Somehow, I had lost the trust of my comrades, and with it, my spirit. My vision was fogging over, and Satoshi's bat was slowly sliding out of my grip, thanks to all my cold sweat. I steadied my breathing to clear my thoughts. I can't turn back. If I turn my back now, I'll be killed. All this focused breathing was causing me to start hyperventilating. When I started convulsing, Shion came over and rubbed my back. I let out a brief scream and crouched down to the ground. My instinctive reaction was to exhale all the air I had collected. Whoops, I don't mean to hit that. Shion calmly lowered herself beside me and continued rubbing my back. If you breathe in too much, you poison yourself. Isn't it strange? We're surrounded by poison at all times. Anyway, good news, isn't it? You would have left incriminating evidence at the crime scene if you'd vomited. I just stood still. I finally parted with my sanity. All that remained was my pure, unadulterated desire to kill. Just then, the crickets stopped singing. I could hear the sound of a motorcycle approaching off in the distance. I felt an explosive desire rising up inside of me, causing my blood to boil and my entire body to heat up. I took a step forward as if possessed by something. Whether it was something supernatural like Ayashiro-sama or not, I didn't care anymore. I succumbed and knelt before the luscious temptation manipulating me. It's getting closer and closer. The target will be here soon. Soon, once he crosses by those bushes over there, he'll appear right before me. In that moment, we'll identify the target. Then we can confirm that. If we can confirm it, my desire was starting to reach the boiling point. I single-mindedly raised my bat overhead and waited waited for him to come out. The bike finally appeared. The features of the target whispered to me that this was indeed Teppei Hojo's motorcycle. Is this really it? This isn't a delusion or hallucination? I checked the features once again to be sure. The colour, the shape, and more importantly his clothes, and his face, that filthy, rotten face. No doubt. No, there's no mistaking this. The bike came closer, closer and closer. As I made my decision, I felt 2 hands pushing on my back. There was no need to check who those hands belonged to. I already knew. It was Oyashiro-sama. I pictured both my eyes glimmering in the darkness. The most terrible thing in the world was losing my heart to doubt and suspicion and turning myself into a beast. Maybe the fear and strength of Oyashiro-sama's existence was eating at my heart. The bike reached the target position. Kill you. Reina and Shion stretched out the rope, causing Teppei's bike to lose balance and fall to the ground. Ow! I leapt out of the bushes right as Teppei's pathetic scream roared out. Teppei was suddenly thrown to the ground without realising what had happened, then groaned as he crawled on the earth. My entire body trembled and I smiled as I looked down at how defenceless he was. I let out a laugh that could echo across the entire world as I swung down the bank. Ooh-ah. Exactly that noise that I just made. Teppei suddenly rolled over and clung to his head, unable to endure the intense pain. I straddled on the top of Teppei to cut off his retreat. Hey, do you know who I am? Teppei blinked incessantly while looking up and trying to identify his assailant. My eyes! I felt a unique satisfaction for the very first time in my life. Do you want to know who I am? I swung my bat down without giving him a chance to respond. Ah. He screamed while twisting his body. I mercilessly stepped on his hands to fend off his escape. My name is Oyashiro-sama. Teppei was starting to feel terrified as he began to comprehend his situation. People tend to shed their sanity when faced with unbearable fear. I had already begun to feel that myself. And when you reach that point, everything you do becomes haphazard. I swung the bat down on Teppei's legs as he desperately tried to crawl away. Sorry for the flashing, it's making my eyes hurt as well, so I do apologise for that. No matter how much you panic, human beings have an instinctive desire to escape danger. Teppei desperately tried to resist and crawl away. Right before my eyes, Teppei's face was growing twisted by fear, and the more he struggled to survive, the more he recognised his own despair. For tonight is the night of the festival. Then I swung my bat at him in a frenzy, in order to put an end to those ear-grating moans and his pathetic struggling. You sneeze. My hoarse breath drifted into the darkness nearby. I was alone in this massive universe. It was a symbol of hatred for Teppei, a symbol of devotion to Stoko, and a symbol of the existence of Keiichi Maebara. In this moment, I was able to become a murderer without losing everything. Keiichi? Reina? Can hear you. Where are you? Keiichi? Shion? I can only hear your voice. Show yourself. You hiding? I don't see anything. There's nothing but darkness in front of me. I can't make out anything. After I rubbed my eyes, I was finally able to make out the blurry silhouettes. Reina and Shion were standing there, staring at me. I hesitated to touch the hand being stretched out to me. I suddenly looked down at my pants, and they were covered in something dark. Is this blood? Teppei's body was lying by my feet. Did I kill him? I struck him with my bat over and over, beating him down as much as I could. That's right. I killed him. I openly joined the ranks of murderers. This brutal display was the main attraction of the Watanagashi festival. God, that was so American of me. Watanagashi. I burst into laughter. Not because I enjoyed it. Not because it was funny. Not because I was happy. Not because I was proud. I was filled to the brim with despair. The bat spilled out of the grasp of my fingers. That moment, I lost the very core of my being and collapsed to the ground. Keiichi, you're covered in blood. But why is it completely black? The blood is so black. Reina's voice seemed to come from somewhere far away. I gently closed my eyes and touched the cold ground, then rubbed my face. I could vaguely hear Reina and Shion talking in the corner of my consciousness. Is he really dead? We should make sure. Right, we need to make sure. So he won't get up again. Reina will take care of it. I'll help. I heard the sound of someone swallowing their saliva in one massive gulp, and shortly thereafter, an ear-splitting sound rang out across the entire area. The sounds echoed for an eternity. Rain began to drip down on the side of my face. Eventually, the rain brought along strong winds. The festival was coming to a close. It was already too late to go. Storm, your opportunity has already passed. When I gently opened my eyes, I saw a familiar shadow looking down at me. When I gradually turned my gaze upwards, What I saw there was... Hey, is this some kind of joke? Right before my eyes, I saw Satoko standing there. Keiichi. Satoko. What are you doing? Right until that moment, I hadn't noticed. We'd made a fatal mistake. We were so focused on Teppei Hojo's presence that we completely neglected to consider the most important factor, Satoko Hojo's intentions. The thunder roared like an explosion. The fierce sound of nature ran a jolt through my entire body. I lost all control of my body. I couldn't move. My whole body was shivering as I stared vacantly at Satoko, with my eyes open wide. The fierce rain pouring down on my face seemed to wash away the tears. The storm came with impeccable timing. In this violent tempest, it wasn't Teppei crying his death throes. It was Satoko. That brought our festival to its conclusion. A moving finale. The last thing I saw before closing my eyes was only that. Only that. Fuck, shit, damn, arsehole, piss. That's what we in the biz call not good. Arguably, very, very bad. Us. Save and what are you all doing? Together in a place like this? When I heard her trembling voice, I slowly forced my eyelids open. Satoko. My meaningless words turned into meaningless sounds as they travelled into the darkness between the trees. Satoko gazed at us with her tear-filled eyes and shivered with her arms around her knees. Just beyond her gaze lay the dark, filthy corpse of her uncle. The excitement of the hunt immediately turned cold. Satoko, why did you come to a place like this? Why did you come here? I felt something like anger boiling up inside of me as I stood before Satoko, with her eyes open wide in bewilderment. All of this was false, Satoko. It was all for you. Though that was an undeniable fact, it didn't seem appropriate to say that now. I didn't want her to see this. More than anyone else, I didn't want you to see this, Satoko. So why? Why did you come all the way to a place like this? Did you go to the festival, Satoko? Did you? Reina said that in an intimidatingly monotone voice. Shion was carefully watching Satoko with a stun gun in hand. Satoko, what are you doing out here? I squeezed that question out. Since our current situation left us no room to make excuses, the best course of action to take with Satoko was to stay on the defensive. Avoid providing her with any unnecessary explanations, and don't give her an opportunity to ask questions. You need to get out of here right away, Satoko. We still have a lot of things to take care of. More than anything else, we need to deal with this guy right away. Satoko? I took one step closer, prompting a response from her. She took a step back, looking terrified. You got lost, didn't you? Let's head back to the festival together, okay, Satoko? Shion held out a hand to Satoko, but she pulled her hands away and took another step back. You're wrong. I just came looking for my uncle. Your uncle, huh? I'm sure he's back at home. Despite the gentle tone in her voice, I could see the stern look in Reina's eyes. We need to get her out of here right away. Reina's eyes clearly signified that. But my uncle wasn't at home. I don't know where he went. Even though her voice was trembling, she put all her might into speaking. Satoko was surrounded by an unwelcoming aura. She herself should have understood fully well that she shouldn't be here. The harder she pushed herself, the more pitiful she looked. Nobody wanted to ask why she came here anymore. I left my uncle alone, so I thought he'd get angry again. I wasn't expecting... Ha! Satoko's explanation was completely drowned out by that scream. She waved her arms in confusion. She was pushed to her limit by panic and fear. Her emotions were on full display as her face started to twitch. Don't come any closer. Don't come over here. Murderer! 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 Good effect. Satoko repeated that word like a broken toy, continuing to chant it, like a ritual incantation. Murderer, 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 murderer. Satoko's voice echoed inside my ears. Stop it, Satoko. Satoko said vacantly as her eyes darted back and forth between me, Reina, and Shion, with her legs trembling in fear. Hey, Satoko, you alright? I ran over to her and grabbed her arm. Let go, let go, let go! No! She thrust my hand away from her body. Though I staggered, I tried to grab a hold of her hand. But it was right in front of me. She was flailing so much that it was hard to grab. Satoko, you're wrong. You're wrong. I can't tell you now, but I'm sure I'll be able to tell you everything in the future. This was all to make you happy. We did this to create our ideal future. To win back our precious everyday happiness. Don't come any closer. Don't touch me. Stop it. Help! Satoko waved both her arms while running, then stumbled as her feet slipped on a pile of leaves and rolled to the ground. She slowly fell into the leaves and landed on her shin. No! Someone! There's a murderer! Satoko's shrieking was deafening. Her screams of terror and despair echoed through me over and over. The sound of her voice made me feel uncomfortable. I was starting to get more and more annoyed. You're free to raise your voice if you want, but if you do that, all our painstaking work until now will be in vain. Driven by that urge, I impulsively went to smack her. Then, she was screaming her lungs out, but she suddenly fell to the ground with a thud. The screaming stopped, and the forest regained its earlier tranquility. Shion had pressed a stun gun to the back of Satoko's neck. Let's put her to sleep for a while. Shion's voice sounded colder than I'd ever heard before. Her eyes looked vacant as she stared down at Satoko. I guess I wasn't the only one feeling unpleasant. Shion. Satoko's pathetic scream was still stuck in my ears. So I was looking up something regarding to this, and I read a couple of comments on it, and people were saying that this was like their least favourite, not because of the plot, because it was, especially if you play this after finishing the main series, it's so awful to see all these friends like hurting each other and distrusting each other, and you know, from the very first scene there's this rift driven sort of down through the friendship group. In a way that's really awful to see, and it's true, like, it's really heartbreaking, but at the same time, I have to say I'm really enjoying this, because I think this game, this episode rather, to me, goes back to, like, one of my favourite things that this series does, which is that it takes these, you know, these friends, and it just breaks them to pieces. And it really does show how paranoia and distrust can take over someone and take over multiple people. Just the fact that, you know, like, these guys make their plot and immediately within seconds they're distrusting each other. It's so, like, it's one of those things where it's not necessarily fun to read, but it's, I don't know what the one I'm looking for, meaningful, intense to read, something along those lines. I'm not enjoying it, but at the same time I am enjoying it. It's that there's this, what this game does really well, and has always done really well, and I think always will do, is just pure horror. Especially at the hands of POV characters, or characters that you've grown to really like all of our main characters. You just don't... It's why I feel like Onikakushi and Wataramagashi, despite being the first two chapters and therefore like the roughest, are also at the same time the best, because it just does that. Onikakushi especially hadn't yet learned subtlety, but it goes from 0 to 100 very slowly, but you get to about 60 and you just rocket over to 80. Exactly, Iris. It's a good story. I wouldn't necessarily say it's an enjoyable story, but it is good, especially I think if you enjoy horror. And the fact that it can be either supernatural horror or like real person horror, and even though like we know that the events of the gene that keeps repeating, we know that the whole thing basically was orchestrated by, almost the whole thing was orchestrated by Takano with a few additions from various people with Hinamizawa syndrome. It doesn't like take away from the fact that like Hanyu is a character who exists, and therefore there has to be some sort of supernatural, and I kind of like in the end that the game doesn't try and explain that. It's just like, yes, you're going to accept this. You're going to accept that the horror itself may not be supernatural, but that doesn't mean the supernatural's not here. And like Hanyu says, she doesn't like people killing, you know, in her name, but she was formed out of and through an act of incredible violence. So it makes sense. I really like this game. It's such a good series. I desperately need to reread the manga. Unfortunately, I don't have time. At the end of term, I'll catch up with all my podcasts and I will read the manga. And then in summertime, I'm only taking 3 classes, and only one of them is a graduate class. One of them is background, the other one is just something that feels really interesting. And I will be fine. Satoko's pathetic scream was still stuck in my ears. I pitied her, but at the same time, I felt like Shion's ruthless expression was even more unsettling. I guess we're the ones doing something egregious here, aren't we? Doubts were beginning to rise in the back of my head. Shion, are you guiding us down a path, no turning back? Shion, when you killed Tepe and knocked Satoko out, were you really doing it for Satoko's sake? I was starting to feel dismayed by her cold, dark eyes. Shion went against the plan and brought a stun gun here. I could have handled the murder myself. I thought it would be better for Shion and Reina if they weren't directly involved in killing him, despite the fact that they are absolutely more used to murdering than he is. Shion absolutely. After Takano, I think Shion probably has the highest body count in the series. Over 2 games, I reckon. Because Keiichi really only has 3 now, 4. No? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 now, 4. Shion has on at least one occasion killed. I'm pretty certain she killed everyone. Did you? Don't think she killed Keiichi and Reina. She certainly killed a lot of people. Let's put it that way. That was for everyone's sake. Nevertheless, Shion ignored my wishes and brought a weapon. What on earth was she thinking? Does she have other plans I don't know about? It was creepy to think that I had an accomplice I knew so little about. We've lost a lot of time, so we need to speed things up. At any rate, we should carry out the cleanup as we planned. Reina's calm voice suddenly brought me back to my senses. We need to carry him to the hole. I nodded silently and grabbed Tepe by the shoulders. Reina grabbed one leg and Shion took the other. We carried Tepe. Everyone remained silent the whole time, just leaving Stoko passed out by the road. Hey, what are you thinking? I stole a glance back at Reina. In the darkness, all I could make out was the sweat shining brightly on her face. We've lost a lot of time. I remembered the words Reina spoke a moment ago. Why did she think that? Indeed, we'd lost a little time thanks to Stoko's intrusion, but even so, the biggest task was carrying out the murder itself. I didn't understand why Reina was so concerned about lost time. If her mind and her face were telling different stories, then what meaning lay behind her current vacant expression? Looking back at Shion, her hair was getting damp from the sweat constantly running down her neck. The two of them didn't seem to notice my gaze. Or perhaps they were pretending not to notice. Either way, they didn't look back at me. Okie doke, Iris. Hey, everyone. What are you all thinking? Why am I not enjoying this at all? Why are these heavy feelings weighing me down? I should be feeling more cheerful about this. Because we did a good thing, didn't we? We did the right thing. It was all we could do. At least we're all friends, right? Friends who were going to bury an evil man together. It's the saying, true lovers burying your corpses together, or something. I have to look that one up. I cannot tap on my phone. And all I am getting is results about COVID and a couple of results about biblical texts. I guess because I've been Googling them recently for one of my classes. Googling them in different languages because we were comparing Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English translations, and discussing the fact that every translation is a commentary. Friends who are going to bury an evil man together. And yet why? Why am I so afraid of being alone? What is this? Fear? Don't make me laugh. What do I have to fear? A lot? It's foolish to feel scared now. There's no reason for it. Because I did a good thing, didn't I? Hey everyone, isn't that the case? Please tell me that. We worked together to create a monument to justice, didn't we? Over here, right? Tepe's body dropped down on the fallen leaves. Reina silently pushed Tepe with the tip of her toe and rolled him into the hole. Shion silently tossed a piece of cloth over the hole. Aren't you exhausted, Keiichi? Wouldn't it be better for us to do this together? Reina was looking directly at me, but she didn't look like she was worried about me. I couldn't understand what they were talking about doing together. I took a deep breath into the bottom of my belly to calm my nerves. The cold oxygen travelled through my whole body. I repeated that several more times, trying to calm myself. Now's not the time to be tired, nor will thinking unnecessary thoughts do any good. I just need time to finish the job. There was no way for any of us to escape from our mutual ties to the crime. That much was obvious. I felt something mushy below the toes of my sneakers. It felt like I kicked some of Tepe's belongings into the hole. Is that something? It doesn't matter. No sense thinking about it. I don't want to think about what I'm doing right now. I have work to do. Physical labour is mankind's primary role. It's an investment of our time in the pursuit of a noble future. I'm sure that I'm accomplishing something meaningful. Right here, right now, I'm sure of it. Right then, should we take care of our respective duties? Yeah. Once I finished my display of bravado, I picked up the shovel once again. I'll handle the burial. Yeah. And Reina will dispose of the tools in the swamp. Then I'll seek his motorcycle in the swamp. Reina grabbed the remaining shovels and started walking in the direction of Onagafuchi swamp without a moment of hesitation. Shion straddled the motorcycle and grabbed the handlebars in a familiar gesture. Then the two of them disappeared off into the distance. Reina and Shion didn't seem to show any signs of stress or excitement. They didn't even seem pessimistic. They simply went on to carry out the tasks as we planned them in advance. Their absolutely ruthless composure gave me a small feeling of dread. Although it's not like I'm seeing them off for the last time here. I still had work to do. I started to pile soil on top of the corpse. Fortunately, the dried blood made it harder to make out the shapes of Tepe's battered body. I piled the dirt onto Tepe's face, an open mouth without mercy. I stomped the dirt flat, then piled on some more. Filling the hole was much easier than digging it. The soil was so much softer this time. Don't think about anything, Keiichi Maebara. Just focus on the things right in front of you, right before your eyes. Of course, my arms were starting to feel heavy. The intense labour was taking a toll on my arms and my back. The sweat flowing down from my forehead trickled into my mouth, and I wiped it away with my filthy hands. The smell of dirt wafted into my mouth. I suddenly began to wonder if I was getting buried myself. Tepe's body was lying at the bottom of this filthy, bug-infested hole, with his face and body covered in dirt. The bitter dirt and the stark hole of sin will continue to weigh down on my conscience for the rest of my life. Give me a break. I shouldn't let my conscience weigh me down. Tepe is the bad guy here. He had no value in the world for the living. I actually did a good thing, didn't I? I could hear the sound of my breath. Of course it's so quiet here, because there's nobody else nearby. Once I finish filling this hole, it'll be all over. Once the corpse is buried. A lukewarm breeze blew by, and I stopped moving my hands. It seemed like the wind wasn't the only thing causing the trees to move. Someone is there, behind my back. How long have they been there? Who is it, and for what purpose? I was afraid to turn around. I had a feeling that everything would end the moment I turned around. All the work I'd done until now would amount to nothing. Keiichi, are you finished? When I turned around, I saw Reina and Shion. They'd apparently returned without me noticing. What? Don't scare me like that. Huh? Did we catch you by surprise? Reina looked exhausted too. Though she was joking, neither of us were in the mood to laugh. Keiichi, I'll take Tsukiotoshi on my scooter. It's dangerous to leave her here for too long. If she starts talking, we'll be in real trouble. Right, understood. But where are you taking her? Shion thought about it for a moment, then made a big smile. Please, leave it to me. I have an idea, but I can explain later. I'm sure the police will start making a fuss now that he's gone. So I'll take care of Tsukiotoshi until things start to cool down. You okay with that? Of course. Tsukioto's unconscious body felt heavy like a corpse as I carried her to Shion's scooter and sat her on the cargo rack. I placed her leaning against Shion's back in the driver's seat, then wrapped Tsukioto's arms around Shion's body, then tied the two of them together with a belt. That way, Tsukioto wouldn't slip off. Alright, Keiichi, we'll talk later. Then Shion's scooter travelled down the bumpy road, and a moment later, the two of them disappeared. Well, let's go. After seeing Shion off, Reina started walking towards the highway. Go where? To the festival. We need to create an alibi to avoid suspicion. That was part of the plan, wasn't it? Almost everyone in the village was participating in the festival. Reina was right. We had to go in order to throw off suspicion. Honestly though, part of me just wanted to fall asleep right there. I dragged my exhausted legs forward and followed behind Reina. Hey Keiichi, cheer up. People will think you look weird if you keep looking so tired, right? Reina gave me a pleasant smile. How was she able to smile like that? Suspicion began to flow into my head, but I quickly forced those dark emotions out and berated myself for even thinking them. Reina is just doing the best she can, right? So I need to work hard too. It's all for Tsukioto. To take back our happy, everyday life. We're still carrying out the plan, right? Reina, could you lend me your shoulder? I braced myself on Reina's shoulder so that I could drag my heavy legs to the shrine. Keiichi, your arm is surprisingly heavy. Reina was just as exhausted as me, but she used all her strength to make a simple joke. No, maybe she wasn't joking after all. I travelled alongside Reina, who was slightly blushing, while we escaped the gloomy forest. After that, we needed to wash away all the mud, sweat and rain, and dishonour clinging to our entire bodies. So we stopped by at Reina's house to get changed. It looked like the party was in full swing. The shrine grounds were packed. Keiichi, Reina, you're really late. Where have you two been? Mion gave Reina and I a glare that indicated she was sick of waiting. Sorry, Mion. Reina forgot something. Reina playfully stuck her tongue out. Once I saw that, I immediately chimed in. Jeez, women take far too long with their makeup. All that struggling and it doesn't even make a big difference. Come on. You're terrible, Keiichi. Reina looked at me with a pouty face. Seeing her nonchalantly make such a normal expression made me catch my breath. Reina, is this really you? How can you act so normal after committing murder? Sorry, the owl was not in game, it was me. Scratching it. A scab. Bad idea. Keiichi, you're terrible. Reina raised her voice to invoke a response out of me, so I set aside my serious expression and did my best to wear a bright smile. Didn't you, Nat? Reina, you look really cute today. cute. Oh. Reina started turning red. Maybe I genuinely cheered her up? Alright, I'm feeling fired up. I'll help negotiate if you want to hit up the shops or something, okay? You can make jokes after you buy something. The old man selling takoyaki laughed graciously. I turned back after laughing with him, and my eyes crossed with Mion, who looked troubled. Hey, Keiichi, Reina, what's up? Well, about Satoko. Mion was hesitating and speaking evasively. She didn't need to say anything. I already understood. In the end, Satoko had headed back home before she even got to the festival. Seeing how dejected Mion looked, I gently gave her a pat on the shoulder. It's not your fault, Mion. That's right. We'll do our best tomorrow and think about what we can do to get Satoko back, okay? Right, Mion? Keiichi, Reina. Mion's expression gradually softened. She looked relieved. Was she expecting us to blame her for not stopping Satoko? Don't worry, Mion. We'll get it all back. Satoko will be able to smile anytime, anywhere. Keiichi, we need to get going. Rika's performance is about to start. There's a place with a better view over that way. Let's go, let's go. Okay. Mion walked ahead to guide us. We pushed our exhausted bodies as hard as we could, trying to stay in high spirits. We were at the shrine grounds on the night of Otanagashi. We had to look like we were having more fun than anyone else. In order to make that reality, Reina and I pushed our aching bodies to the limit. Distressed blue. Eternal blues. That's how I feel at the moment. What? No, that's what I want to do. There. It felt like bloody dirt was inside my mouth. A metallic taste was stuck to my tongue. I was lying down on the hard, damp ground. Right here, in a cramped hole. This hole! It was made for me! Choking on the combined smell of sweat, dirt, and blood. The hole wasn't very deep, but I couldn't get out of it. No matter how hard I tried to escape the hole, here I was. That's it. I'm already dead. So that's where I am. Pain ran down my back, and right after, something hard struck me. It was a bat, a metal bat. Satoshi's bat. A huge hatchet suddenly rose up above my head and sliced into my neck. I don't remember much after that. Sorry for the flashing again. Either way, I'm already dead. I was murdered. In this damp forest, alone. Help, they're killing me. Could hear someone screaming. A deafening scream. Satoko. What's going on? I have no intention of killing Satoko. After all, I'm already dead. Reina and Shion were watching me, laughing. Both of them were wearing clothes soaked with sweat and covered in dirt, with cold smiles on their faces. Hey, why are you guys making those cold faces? We're friends, right? We did this together because we're friends, right? We're comrades in arms. Please welcome me with open arms. Keiichi, we're not friends. When are you going to wake up? Reina smiled with her usual adorable expression. Not friends? What does she mean? Keiichi, why would you ask Reina something like that? He's trying to ask question after question to keep us from asking questions of our own. His guilty conscience will never let him say anything. I haven't done anything to feel guilty about. Satoko, I did all of this for you, right? Keiichi, that's enough. Because you're already dead, Keiichi. Shion, Reina, Satoko. My eyes hurt. I suddenly woke up. It was all a dream. At what point did I realize it was a dream? Right from the beginning. Because I'm not dead yet. In fact, I was the one who did the killing. I pictured Satoko's uncle writhing in agony in the dark forest. The reddish-black colour of his blood. The gory remains of his face. Awkwardly trying to scurry away. Unable to get his pathetic little fingers on anything. And me putting every ounce of strength in my body into swinging a metal bat. My stomach began to churn as those memories came back to me. Last night felt like so long ago. Still, it was all true. What I experienced yesterday was real. But when I thought back on it, it felt like there was an empty hole in my heart. What are you thinking? Get a grip, Keiichi Maebara. I'm not in this alone. I have friends, don't I? Why do I need to cry about this? I set out on a mission and accomplished it completely, didn't I? I should hold my head high and feel proud of myself. I accomplished what nobody else could. I saved a helpless girl named Satoko, and it only took a single night. Keiichi, hurry up or you'll be late. Prompted by Mum's words, I quickly changed clothes. I'm coming down now. I regained our ideal future. Starting today, a normal everyday life will resume. This is the usual happy morning, and Reina should be waiting for me in the regular spot. I was in a rush like usual, eating a delicious breakfast like usual, and racing out of the house like usual. Tense music for nothing. The sunshine gently illuminated the school building. I could hear the kids shouting in the schoolyard. The peaceful everyday life made its way here too. The gloomy, oppressive atmosphere from the other day felt like a dream or a tale from a far-off land. Reina wasn't at the meeting place today. Neither was Mion, so I headed into the classroom alone, feeling slightly disappointed that I hadn't regained back peace in my everyday life. I wanted to see Satoko right away. That was the only thing I wanted. Satoko will definitely be at school today, won't she? Satoko, if you're at school today, I'll happily fall victim to one of your traps. I vigorously opened the classroom door, but for better or worse, no eraser fell down on my head. Keiichi, good morning. Good morning, Mion. Today was duty day, right? Reina forgot and waited at the usual spot for a while today. Reina slipped in front of me and started talking to Mion in a surprisingly enthusiastic tone. Okay. Reina? Something felt off, like she was different from yesterday. Why didn't she come to our regular meeting spot? Was there no particular reason? No particular reason for going on ahead without me? Reina turned back to me and smiled. Maybe she sensed my apprehension. Keiichi, good morning. Good morning. Before I even had a chance to ask her anything, Reina turned back to Mion and smiled. Yesterday was so much fun, Mion. I couldn't understand what she was thinking. Is there a chance that she's trying to betray me? Or maybe the betrayal has already begun? The events of last night suddenly pricked me in the heart. No way, can't be. That dream was just a dream, not a prediction or a premonition. Keiichi, you were acting pretty over the top, weren't you? I guess that's why you look so exhausted today, huh? You were pretty energetic yourself, Mion. You ate 6 servings of yakisoba. Yakisoba. I raised my tone to better match the two of them. We were hanging out at the shrine grounds. Reina and I were there too, enjoying the festival. That was all a fact. It was an eating contest. Of course I ate a lot. You're the one who challenged me like it was some high noon duel, you know? But Keiichi did his best, didn't he? Even the takoyaki vendor liked him. Of course. I'll make the takoyaki myself next year. I think Keiichi should stick to being a salesman and let someone else handle the cooking. What's that supposed to mean? Keiichi, your cooking has destructive potential on par with thermonuclear weapons. It's terrifying. Nipa? This old man doesn't want to eat Keiichi's takoyaki either. Come on, Reina, pressing cover fire. Actually, Reina's stomach wasn't feeling too well. That ambiguous response was pretty much a rejection. Come on. I was all on my own, with everyone laughing at me non-stop. We spent every free moment throughout the day sharing exciting stories about the festival. Even though it seemed obligatory to talk about the festival, I wasn't all that interested in going through it in detail. That was the mandatory after-festival event, the follow-up activity that was necessary for the festival to come to an end, so that the events of the day wouldn't need to be repeated anymore. I need to get it all out right here with everyone. Then the events of that night can be laid to rest. And with that out of the way, I can get ready to head home. All the same, I was tired. I wanted to enjoy sharing stories about the evening of the festival from the bottom of my heart, but I just couldn't. Every time I talked about how much fun I had yesterday, I struggled to separate my feelings from my words. By the end of the day, my mind and body were exhausted. I'm done with talking to people today. Reina might feel the same way. Keiichi, let's head home. Fortunately, Mion and Rika were on duty today, so I tried leaving the classroom with Reina. Later, Keiichi. See you tomorrow, Reina. Mion waved at us while wiping the blackboard. Bye-bye. Work hard and get your chores done, Mion. Chores really something you need to work hard on? Well, Keiichi, you think it's okay to slack off on duty? This old man finds that terribly offensive. It's unacceptable. But if it's that easy for you, would you mind trading places? Be serious. Besides, Reina takes duty day very seriously. Anyway, see you later. Keiichi, wait. Actually, Reina isn't very good at duty. Oh. I shuffled out the classroom in a hurry, with Reina following behind. I could still hear Mion's boisterous laughter all the way in the hallway. Keiichi? Right as I stepped into the schoolyard, Rika caught up to me and came over with a journal in hand. She seemed less energetic than usual. Her shoulders were slightly drooped. Rika, what's wrong? Reina was walking beside me and called out to her in a considerate tone. However, Rika kept her eyes pointed towards the ground, gazing at the dirt around the schoolyard, and staring some more. Rika? Rika raised her head. Her eyes were red and swollen. I realised that she must have been crying alone somewhere. Rika, what's going on? Did something happen? Makaya just fell down. Look. She held her hands out. Both of her palms were covered in dirt. You alright? We can go to the nurse's office together, okay? Rika vigorously shook her head. Then she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Rika? It's okay. I'm alright. Rika's voice seemed to fade out as she said that. But regardless of what she said, she didn't look okay. But, Rika, you don't look like you're doing alright. I'm fine. But more importantly, I have something to ask the both of you. Something to ask? Rika squeezed my wrist with tremendous strength. First I thought she grabbed my wrist because she wanted help. Like she wanted me to understand the pain she felt when she fell and wanted me to bring her to the nurse's office. But that's not right. The incredible power clinging to my wrist was far too strong for a weak girl crying about falling down. That was when I realised. She grabbed my wrist because she didn't want me to run from the question she was about to ask. A sharp light radiated from her eyes directly into my own. I just want to know. About last night. Rika stared at me with a vacant look in her eyes. There was no strength in her eyes, like the eyes of the corpse. The emotionless look on her face was unbearable. In fact, it made me anxious. She was asking about the festival last night, right? Why is she making that face while asking about last night? What was this about? I immediately looked away from her. Rika, is there something you want to know? Is there? Reina stout-heartedly stared back at Rika, but I could see a hint of anxiety in her complexion. You know when you get a new piece of clothing and then you accidentally rip it after having owned it for like a week? I'm really annoyed at myself. Keiichi, Rika, Reina, do you know where Satoko went? My breath came to a halt. I stole a quick glance back at Rika's face. Her expression remained unchanged. She was still staring at me with eyes open wide. Her mystical glaze gently surrounded me, and her eyes looked ominous. Spooky eyes Rika, spooky eyes Rika. I want you to tell me, where did Satoko go? Rika repeated her question. She seemed convinced that we knew the answer. I couldn't even look at her. Keiichi, on the night of the festival, did something happen? My body began to tremble. My wrist was certainly trembling too. Rika must have been able to feel those vibrations. Was it maybe something bad? My legs were about to collapse from the fear. Rika knows everything. What can we do about it? How about you, Reina? Rika slowly turned towards Reina. There's no way she could have known. Did she know? Maybe Hanyu told her that we were the ones that killed Teppei last time, assuming that the previous Teppei cycle happened before this one. Don't know. Reina went straight to the festival. Straight to the festival? Did you really go straight to the festival? Bear with me a hot second, just because I am breaking a thing. What was I close? All the wrong things. Straight to the festival? Did you really go straight to the festival? Satoko went to the festival and never came back. Okay, when we complete this, we get the secret ending to Higurashi. My heart was ringing like a fire alarm. Why is Rika asking about this so persistently? So persistent. Too persistent. Does she already know about what happened last night? Could she have heard Satoko's screams? If she knew that much, just how much more did she know? Reina, please answer me. Reina reflexively took a step back. I couldn't do anything. She still had a tight grip on my wrists. Keiichi? I wasn't sure how to answer. Reina was staring Rika right in the eyes. Rika turned her innocent eyes back and forth between me and Reina, and eventually led outside. I see. If you don't know anything, there's no point asking. I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful. Feeling relieved, I started to breathe again. Then Rika released a grip on my wrists and began to speak in a somber tone. Satoko's gone. I checked the hotel house last night and again this morning, but it's really quiet. Seems like nobody's inside. Reina and I couldn't find the words to respond to that. I'm sorry. I got dirt all over your hand, Keiichi. Oh, it's okay. It's just dirt. It washes right off. Did you have dirt on your hands last night, Keiichi? Please, wash them properly. Keiichi and Reina don't know anything about Satoko. Sorry for bothering you. Nipa! Rika gave us the usual smile, then quickly ran off towards the school building. I quickly turned and started walking in the opposite direction without waiting to see her off. I single-mindedly walked through the school gate at a brisk pace. Reina silently followed behind me. Reina and I never turned back, so we had no idea if Rika was looking back at us. Reina and I were walking side by side. Our conversation fell apart, and then we spoke up again, as if we'd remembered something, only for the conversation to fall apart again. We exchanged a few more words on a variety of topics, as we carefully avoided one particular topic, and eventually our conversations really did fall apart. We've been walking in silence for a while now. Eventually we arrived at the point where the path split towards Reina's house. Hey, Keiichi, I'm a little worried, you know? That was the first thing I wanted to say after we left the school gate. Worried about what? I deliberately asked her to say more. It was probably about what happened with Rika earlier. Rika knows something, doesn't she? This is a far too serious matter to simply ignore. About Satoko. Satoko? Since my mind had been entirely geared on doing something if Rika knew anything, Reina's response threw me off a little. Satoko? Come to think of it, Rika didn't seem to know about her whereabouts. If she knew, she wouldn't have been so persistent in asking about it, with that sad look on her face. Nobody's home at the Hojo house. Won't that seem abnormal? Reina repeated it. Someone in the village may have already noticed. The house is empty. Tepe aside, I think it will cause a big commotion if they figure out that Satoko isn't there either. Indeed, we might be in trouble if people go out searching for Satoko. I'll give Shion a call. Be better to meet Shion in person. Reina's been worried since we split up yesterday. That's true. We decided it would be best to meet at the same place in Okunomiya. I flopped down once I returned to my room. Pardon me. I didn't feel like watching TV or reading books. We travelled to Angelmore to see Shion, but she wasn't there. Apparently she was off today. I left a message asking her to call, then Reina and I went home, but I still haven't got a call. It was around 9 PM. I tried calling Shion a little while ago, but she wasn't there. I left a message on her answering machine, asking her to give me a call, but I was still waiting for a response. Shion, it'd be nice if you called to let us know you got everything done safely last night. I wonder what she was doing while we were working our bodies in a frenzy at a festival. In the end, Shion never came to the festival, even though we promised to corroborate each other's alibis by hanging out together. The plan was falling apart thanks to the inclusion of the uncertain factor that was Satoko. I couldn't sit still, so I paced back and forth in the living room, constantly staring at the phone that never rang, going to the bathroom, getting a drink of water. Keiichi, is something wrong? Mum called out to me in a concerned voice. No, it's nothing. So I dejectedly headed back to my room. What if something happened to Shion? Insecurity quickly plagued my mind. Maybe something prevented her from making direct contact. Like what? The curse of Oyashiro-sama. Moron. Why would the curse target Shion? I scornfully laughed it off as a ridiculous idea. Still, I couldn't help but think about the curse. On the night of Watanagashi, one person dies and one person goes missing. Satoko's uncle died. He was the victim this year. The 5th year's curse fell on Teppei Hojo. Satoko's uncle. But then, who went missing this year? The sound of the phone made me jump. Hello? Keiichi? As soon as I heard that voice, I felt relieved from the bottom of my heart. Shion! All the strength quickly released from my body. She was alive. She was safe. Keiichi, you alright? I got your message, so I called. Is something wrong? How can you ask that? We were worried about what happened after that. You should have called us. Shion was safe. My mind was getting lighter and lighter from the joy that fact brought me. I was so incredibly relieved. It was absurd to imagine the curse had taken Shion. I guess I was wrong to think something was wrong after all. Sorry, I worried you, huh? Yeah, extremely. But more importantly, were you able to make it home safely last night? We went to the festival afterwards like we planned, but we weren't sure if you were okay. I'm getting distracted by, everything. Yeah, no problems. So what happened to Satoko? Where did you hide her? About that. I felt a tense atmosphere suddenly pouring out of the handset. Did something happen? The police are desperately searching for Teppei Hojo. They know he's been missing since last night. The police have already found out about his disappearance? Yeah, someone apparently saw him go out on his motorcycle that evening, and the Hojo house has been completely vacant since last night. They were already aware of all that? I thought back on the dark forest where I buried Satoko's uncle. So where did you take Satoko? It's alright. She's sleeping quietly in a place where she won't meet anyone. When the time comes, I'll tell you, Keiichi. But for now, I can't say. Shion stubbornly refused to tell me where she was hiding. I was beginning to feel suspicious of Shion. Why? Why can't you tell me where you've taken her? Since she disappeared with her uncle, the police are apparently looking into her as a potential witness or suspect. As soon as I heard that, it was like being splashed with cold water. I shrank in on myself and began to shiver. The investigation was already underway? It's incredibly fast. But why? Shouldn't they only launch a major investigation after he's been missing a few days? Because it's Watanagashi, you fool! No way. Could someone have witnessed something last night? Or maybe... Carefully listened to the other end of the receiver. Shion remained silent, waiting for me to say something. The word betrayal crossed my mind. But who? Could it be? Did something bad happen last night? I recalled what Rika asked me after school, when she gently grabbed me by the wrist. It felt like the dirt was still there. It was terrifying. Keiichi, you're not saying anything. Are you okay? Shion, can we meet up tomorrow? I heard her gasp on the other end of the phone. Shion? Something wrong? Not really. That's fine. Then we'll meet at the Okonomiya library. I'll bring Reina with me. Reina's coming too? Understood. See you tomorrow. Then I set the receiver down and hung up the phone. My heart was throbbing for some reason. I shouldn't let things come between Shion and I, but it definitely made me feel anxious. There was nothing to be afraid of, but I couldn't shake a bad feeling about it. It's alright. Once I meet Shion tomorrow, I can clear up all the things I'm imagining. All my doubts will be eliminated once Shion tells me where Satoko is hidden. I hopped into my futon, wanting tomorrow to arrive as soon as possible, but I was still so anxious I could hardly manage to sleep. Oops. I nearly knocked my glass over. That would have been extremely bad. Let's see, I'm probably gonna, I'll see how far along we are at 11 o'clock, but I'm gonna try my hardest to like push through and finish this week, I think. Ooh, big yawns, I'm sorry. After school, Reina and I travelled to the Shishibane City Municipal Library in Okonomiya. It was frustrating sitting through class all day, but I was relieved when I heard the chant go off. Shion was already here, waiting for us in the collection corner of the second floor. Shion. She turned around and slowly walked towards us. Shion, it's been a while, hasn't it? Reina lightly chuckled after saying that. It hadn't been long at all. It was only the day before yesterday that we accomplished our great achievement together. Reina must also be feeling that the night seemed so long ago. Or maybe she wants to forget about that night as soon as possible. No, maybe I'm overthinking it. Hello, Keiichi, Reina. Should we head to the lounge? We each bought a juice from the vending machine, then sat down on the old couch in the corner of the lounge. Meeting at a coffee shop would have been good too, but I secretly liked the juice here and the hard sofa. The quaint atmosphere drifted into the lounge of the library. Good news, the library at my uni is opening up for in person, so as long as you make an appointment, and I might go work there when it's final project time. It will mean using my shitty laptop, but it will also allow me to get out of my room. Like, on the one hand, it's nice having my computer so that I can like have all my tabs open and stuff, but on the other hand, I'm kind of like, ugh, and leave the house. Just as I expected, we got here early enough that there were hardly any students or other customers around. Shion, has everything been alright since then? Reina chewed on her ice as she asked Shion that question. Yeah, no problems. Sorry for making you worry. I wasn't sure if I should contact you. I was concerned that any movement would be problematic. So, what's been going on? Shion turned her gaze downwards as I leaned towards her. The situation doesn't look very good. I got some information from my contacts in the Samzaki family. The police are in an uproar searching for Teppei Hojo. Shion was also a member of the Samzaki family. The Samzakis had incredible reach when it came to information gathering, ranging from public security channels to underground communications. But why? Normally it takes about a week to begin a search for a missing adult, especially, right? Besides, it shouldn't be unusual for Teppei to leave the house for a day or two. Reina was right about that. There was no reason for the police to be searching for him so hard. He was a scoundrel. Even if he went off and died somewhere, it wouldn't be that unusual. If this were a normal incident, that wouldn't be the case, but what if they're investigating this as an incident on the night of Otanagashi? Reina and I both gasped as soon as we heard that. The police think this is the curse for Yashiro-sama? The curse of the 5th year? A neighbour witnessed Teppei Hojo driving into the forest on his motorcycle. However, the police haven't yet gathered anything beyond that. Also, neighbours reported that the shouting they heard from the Hojo house on a daily basis stopped since that day. And actually, the police have good reason to be tracing his footsteps. Shion sounded evasive as she said that. Good reason? What on earth could it be? About Tomitake. If you already knew about it, I'd rather not say it again. So, do you know about that? I had no idea what she was referring to. Reina looked confused too, scratching her head. We both shook our heads at the same time in response. Then, Shion took a deep breath and exhaled. Tomitake died last night. Shion, what do you mean? Exactly what I said. To be precise, it wasn't just Tomitake. A nurse named Mr. Kano, who was close to him, seems to have died as well. It felt like a punch in the gut. 2 people died on the night of Otanagashi. And counting Teppei Hojo, that made 3. Last night though, so not day after Otanagashi, right? Witnesses saw both of them at the festival that night. We didn't run into them. Maybe they went home early. It's possible. So you're saying something happened to the two of them after the festival? I believe so. According to police intel, they found both of their bodies. Tomitake committed suicide, and Takano was probably murdered. Reina and I looked over at each other. I couldn't believe Tomitake was in the mental state to commit suicide. And what? Takano was probably murdered? The night of Watanagashi. According to Shion, the police were on their way home to Okonomiya after wrapping up festival security when they discovered Tomitake. The cause of his death was clawing out his own throat. Suicide. With his own fingernails. Scraping at his throat and slicing his blood vessels, tearing them apart. It was an unbelievably horrifying corpse. Tomitake, drowned to death in his own blood. Should have put a gore warning on the title as well, but... well... maybe that's subsumed by the violence content warning. Tearing out the flesh of his throat with his own fingernails. The pain of that exceeded the limits of my imagination. The only thing that came to mind was a horrifying display of blood. It couldn't be. I've never heard of suicide like that. It's impossible. Without thinking, I began to shout. If this was Shion's attempt at threatening us, I wanted her to stop making sick jokes. But she remained still. She just stared at me, waiting for my outburst to end, then continued. Do you also need to hear an explanation about Mr. Kano? I'm sorry. I gently apologised for raising my voice, and for suspecting that Shion would make such a tasteless joke. Would you tell us? In contrast to Reina's calm demeanour, I took several deep breaths to calm myself. Then, when I was finally able to breathe normally, I nodded to Shion and urged her to continue. Takano's body was found incinerated. It was apparently found deep in the mountains of a neighbouring prefecture, far from Hinamizawa. The body was burned wearing only her underoos. They only learned it was Takano after verifying dental records during the autopsy. There were no clothes in the vicinity, and a kerosene can was laying nearby, so they have strong reason to suspect murder. I can't imagine someone would commit suicide that way. Pretty certain they have. Didn't Eastern women commit suicide that way? To Google. Poisoning, a fly that burned, and her neck was bruised, possibly from fall or blow. Got distracted. Yes, Easter woman. Okay, Eris, take care. You too. Thank you. Have a good night. I apologise if this game is not the best thing to read before you fall asleep. If it's any consolation, this has been my life for the last year. Is 11 o'clock and being like, I've got to shower and go to bed now. Cries. Anyway, I looked it up, and East Hall woman is suspected that she committed suicide because she took a bunch of sleeping pills, but there was soot found in her lungs, so they suspect she was alive when she was burnt, which either means she was somebody like burnt her after she took the sleeping pills, or she somehow burnt herself. I suppose possibly it could have been she took the sleeping pills and then passed out onto a fire, but anyway. Right, so that's why they suspect Oyashiro-sama's curse. I caught my breath. I could feel the fear steadily rising from the pit of my stomach. I realised I was beginning to tremble. This is the curse of Oyashiro-sama. 3 people died on the night of Watanagashi. Every year, Oyashiro-sama's curse causes 1 person to die and 1 to go missing, and yet 3 died this year. So that's why the police are frantically searching for Teppei Hojo. Right, he's a suspect. I relaxed a little after hearing that. Reina seemed to feel the same way. She turned to me and lightly nodded. I suppose that makes sense then. If the 2 of them died, then the police currently think that both Hojos have gone missing. For better or for worse, it may not be morally right to say, but it was a convenient development for us. If he's the bad guy, we have little to be concerned about. They have plenty of reasons to suspect him. If they're searching for him as a suspect, we don't need to worry. And I suppose that's good, because this is the curse of Oyashiro-sama. She said it like it was nothing. Reina was able to say that with a straight face, but I didn't miss the slight smile forming in the corner of her mouth. The rules of the curse are the same every year. 1 death and 1 missing, and the missing person this year is Tepe Hojo. So it's natural for them to believe they won't find him. I see. We always believed he would be this year's death, but that's not the case. He is a missing person. And that's good. They can't find his corpse, everything will be okay. Then we can bury all of this, literally and figuratively. I felt relieved. The weight on my heart was getting lighter. This was an unexpected development, but it seemed we were saved by Oyashiro-sama. At last we can be free of the horrible events of that night. Right. The rain shouldn't have moved the dirt much, but the hole wasn't that deep. Reina muttered something with a look in her eyes like she was calculating something. I tensed up at the idea that she seemed to be reflecting on something beyond my comprehension. As long as the number of victims and disappearances in Oyashiro-sama's curse match up, then there's no problem. But still, I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should say anything. But still, can we really decide what isn't Oyashiro-sama's curse? Besides, even if we might... Keiichi, you're worried that Oyashiro-sama's curse might fall on you too, aren't you? Reina perfectly summarised my insecurity. I suppose it was plainly on display on my face. Considered that for a while, but no matter how hard I thought about it, I couldn't find a reason for us to be cursed. Because we haven't done anything wrong. Because we fought for Satoko's sake, so there's no reason for us to be cursed. But maybe I just wanted to see it that way. It was impossible to be sure. That's right. Don't start getting faint-hearted here, Keiichi. Shion and I lightly laughed. Standing beside cheerful Shion, Reina had a dark expression as she stared down at the floor. Oyashiro-sama's curse states that 1 person dies and 1 goes missing every year. However, 3 people have died this year. In that case, do 3 people need to disappear? Anyway, it's about time to go. Reina stood up and stretched. I stood up too, but I had to release the words that were stuck in my heart. Shion, where is Satoko? Shion? Just as I was about to press Shion some more, I noticed she was staring straight ahead with a stiff face. And when I looked in that direction, right there was... Please excuse me. A fat, middle-aged man with a cigarette was standing in front of the entrance to the lounge. Isn't that Oishi the detective? Mr. Oishi, how long have you been here? Do you think it's admirable to eavesdrop on the conversations of law-abiding citizens? I'd like for you to continue being law-abiding citizens. Oishi showed little regard to Shion as he said that. He turned and looked at Reina and I. I couldn't find the words to respond to that comment. I had a bad feeling about it, so I instinctively turned and looked away. It's been a long time, Maebara. Should probably introduce myself again. I'm Oishi from the Okinomiya police station. Where's my notebook? Here it is. Oishi thrust a worn-out notebook right in front of our noses. Did the police come to visit us? No way. Reina, Shion and I should be the only people who knew we were coming here today. So if a police officer is running into us here, then it must be a coincidence, right? You're Maebara, and you must be Ms. Ryugu, right? Listening to Oishi's prying voice made me feel uncomfortable. It felt like a fly was annoyingly buzzing around inside my brain. I should head home right away. I need to get out of here. I don't want to hear a single word this man has to say. Why did he come here? What does he want to ask me? Do you need something from us? I've heard a lot of rumors lately. Hinamizawa is a small village after all. They're the type to remember a name and a face right away. Oishi crossed his cigarette and turned straight towards me. My entire body tensed up. How long has this guy been here? Was he listening to our conversation earlier? What was his reason for approaching us? With sweat dripping from every pore on my body, I sternly urged myself not to say anything unnecessary. Thing is, Keiichi is the worst liar because he has no poker face whatsoever. I understand. You're nervous because the police are suddenly talking to you. Sorry about that. Actually, I just wanted to have a friendly chat. There's no deeper meaning to this. He boisterously laughed. There was nothing worth laughing about. He was simply trying to relax the atmosphere. As if I'd ever let my tongue slip. We were actually getting ready to head out. If you want to have small talk, you'll have to wait until next time. Then Shion tried to make her way out of the lounge. Please, wait. Maebara. I suddenly stopped moving and clicked my tongue in annoyance when he caught me off guard by calling out to me. I guess this detective is that sort of man. A sneaky old bastard. Well, I'd like to ask you a quick question. Maybara, where were you on the night before yesterday? My heart started racing. The police are already suspecting me? For the murder of Teppei Hojo? The night before yesterday? Why not ask about the day of Watanagashi? Why ask about the night specifically? Is there something you can confirm by asking me that? I gently glanced over at Reina. She was emotionlessly staring ahead, probably trying to hide her true feelings. Day before yesterday? You mean the day of the Watanagashi festival, right? Of course, I was celebrating at the festival, but... I carefully chose my answer. I tried my best not to add any unnecessary details. Oh, so you went to the festival. That's nice. I actually attend the Watanagashi festival every year. Of course, I intend as a security guard. Ooh. So what did you do at the festival? What did I do? I visited the stalls, had an eating contest, and played the shooting game. Still treading cautiously. It's fine. I actually did attend the festival. That was an undeniable fact. What time were you at the festival, Maybara? Finally came to that. If I answered this one carelessly, it would invalidate my story. I need to declare right there that I was partying at the festival right from the beginning. Well, actually, this was my first time attending the festival, and I was excited, so I wasn't really focused on the time. I suppose so. And how about you, Miss Riku? I was with Keiichi the whole time. The whole time? You were together for the entire festival? Yes, everyone was together. Reina wore a pleasant smile, like she was reminiscing about pleasant memories. If all the time we spent dragging our tired bodies having fun didn't come in handy now, then when? Right, we were all making a racket together. Shion's older sister Mion ended up winning the eating contest, right? I adjusted my approach to harmonise with Reina. Well then, Shion Sonozaki. What about you? Did you go to the festival too? Reina and I fell silent once again. The lively conversation instantly froze over. I was at my part-time job. Part-time job? Oishi furrowed his eyebrows. I started thinking about how I could back up Shion's sudden explanation. Part-time job. Even though all your friends were playing at the festival together, you spent the day at your part-time job? Yes. Keiichi and I go to different schools. We're not exactly friends. We're not exactly friends. I was uncomfortable with how little Shion hesitated before saying that. I felt uneasy about the explanation itself too, but I kept quiet for the time being. As long as Oishi is here, I should keep my mouth shut. I see. So what kind of place do you work at? A family restaurant. It's called Angel Mill. It's famous in the area. I'm quite familiar with it. Quite. The uniforms are really cute. I finally had a moment to say something, but after saying that, I couldn't think of anything else to follow up with. Angel Mill, huh? Well, weren't they crowded the day before yesterday? Yeah, but it was manageable. Oh, if you need proof that I was there, you can ask my uncle. My uncle actually runs the shop. The Sonozaki family is rather adept at running businesses. Then I'll feel free to take you up on that. So for now, let me just ask you this, Shion. What time were you working on the night of Watanagashi? I could see Shion getting more and more sullen as Oishi's relentless interrogation continued. Well, I didn't get home till after midnight, and I really need to get going to my job right now. At any rate, I worked pretty much that entire day. Now, if you'll excuse me. Shion let all of that out at once in frustration, then quickly stormed off. Reina and I rushed to follow her. Surprisingly, Oishi made no effort to pursue us. I gently looked back on my way out and saw him lighting another cigarette in the lounge. After that, we quickly lost sight of Shion. I wonder if she really went to a part-time job. Hey, Keiichi. Reina gave me an uneasy look while unlocking her bike at the bike rack. Stoko is safe, right? Yeah. Shion says she's okay, so that means she's okay, right? Right. I just had a bad feeling for some reason. Reina must be imagining things. Reina hopped on her bike and started pedaling vigorously. Just like me, Reina had to live with all these disconcerting events weighing down on her heart. Even though the night was already over, even though we'd fought together to take back our world, our peaceful world still hadn't come back. I want to see Stoko as soon as possible. Yeah. As we pedalled our bikes side by side, we reminisced about our previous everyday life. Oof, as the kids would say. As the day was coming to a close, I started feeling restless. A lot of time passed at school as I chatted with Mion, Rika and Reina. Satoko's seat was empty again today. Just a lonely desk and chair where a person was meant to be. Despite all my effort, the situation hadn't changed at all. I murdered Satoko's uncle with my own hands, but even though he was permanently buried in the ground, Satoko still hadn't come back. Every day without Satoko felt like it would go on for an eternity. It was all meaningless. The weight of those words made me feel depressed. We did what we could to help a friend in need. We tried with all our might. But even so, our effort went unrewarded. On top of that, I felt disgusted with myself every moment that I began to doubt my friends. Why so glum, Keiichi? Anyway, what would you like to do for today's club activity? Mion cheerfully called out to me while rifling through the club locker. I wasn't interested in club activities without Satoko. Sorry, Mion. I need to head home today. What, Keiichi? Something wrong? Did you overeat? Or maybe you drank too much? Or did you overdo something else? I didn't overdo anything. As a matter of fact, it was taking everything I had to dodge Mion's prying questions. Damn it. Normally I'd be able to turn her lame jokes around on her easily, but it's frustrating that I'm not thinking as clearly as usual. Keiichi. Reina quietly stood by my side, carrying a bag. I immediately recognised what she wanted to say. That's right. I need to go to Reina's house today to help tidy up. Yep, that's right. Reina's yard is starting to overflow with cute things. It's not the sort of thing that could be cleaned up alone. Reina and I were completely in sync. Guess it can't be helped. In that case, this old man will have to start thinking about tomorrow's club activities and an appropriate punishment game. After that surprisingly frank response, Mion walked back to her seat. Once Mion was sufficiently far away, Reina stealthily whispered into my ear. Hey Keiichi, I think we should go to Angel Mall today. Right. She must have had the same concern about Satoko. Shio never told us where she went, and we still haven't seen her. I wasn't the only one feeling anxious about that. Sorry, distracted again. We still need Shion to tell us about Satoko's whereabouts. She never gave us a proper explanation. Aren't you worried? Yeah. I nodded in agreement. Hopefully Shion will be able to tell us everything. She had no reason to hide anything, but something always seemed to come up whenever I tried asking about Satoko. On top of that, Oishi and the police were getting suspicious. I remembered how lost and confused I felt when I met him at the library yesterday, and it made me terrified. I definitely can't lower my guard around him. That's what my heart was telling me. If he was trying to confirm our alibis, there was a good chance he suspected something. I can't allow him to go any further. Absolutely not. Keiichi, you're making a scary face. Ah! I was surprised by a sudden voice from behind my back. When I looked back, Rika was smiling at me and saying, Nippa! I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry. But anyway, I want you to come with me, Keiichi. Rika looked up at me with her huge, adorable eyes. Oh, Reina wants Rika to stare at her like that. Reina, could you wait a moment? We'll be back soon. Rika pleasantly smiled as she said that to Reina. Then she glanced back at me to coax me out of the classroom. I wonder what's going on with Rika. Well, Reina will be waiting here. Right, I think I'll be back pretty quick. I followed Rika out of the classroom. She'd been staring at me for a while now with a cautious expression, never smiling. I chased after her from behind, feeling like I was walking into a foe's lair, unarmed. We got hiccups. We moved to a shady spot behind the school building. If the school was a bit less wholesome, this would be the ideal location for seniors to harass the underclassmen. In other words, I simply couldn't feel comfortable in a space like this. Miss Chair's curry vegetable garden was planted back here. Can vegetables grow in a place like this that actually taste good? I was filled with the urge to get out of here, right away. Why did I come to a place like this? What was Rika thinking? The innocent smile she was wearing earlier had completely vanished. She was just staring at me with a harsh expression. Well, Rika, what did you want to talk about? Do you remember what I asked you the other day, Keiichi? She looked me straight in the eyes as she asked me that. I recalled the other day when she tightly grabbed me by the wrist. Please tell me, where has Toko gone? Her eyes were full of tears as she solemnly asked that. I felt a little relieved. If she was asking about Satoko, that meant she didn't know anything about me. I'd like to know that too, Rika. I'm about to go ask Shion that very question. However, Rika followed that up with a comment strong enough to destroy all traces of those thoughts. Even if Keiichi and the others did something they shouldn't have, none of that matters right now. I froze. All the blood in my body ran cold. It was like my guard had become meaningless. My ability to keep my opponent at a safe distance and to launch a counterattack were completely denied to me right from the beginning of the interaction. A shock ran through my whole body, like I was shot with a cannon. Something that shouldn't have been done? That means Rika knows what I did? Keiichi and the others? How does she know? How is she aware that multiple people were involved? My throat dried up and my tongue became tangled. I couldn't say anything. Is this Rika's attempt at threatening me? Keiichi, please tell me, where is Satoko? My lips, my throat, and even my heart trembled. I started convulsing. I lost my voice. Despite how hard I was breathing, only a light breath escaped me. I don't know that either. I'm just as worried sick about her. For all the words swelling about in my mind, none of them could reach my lips. My entire body was swallowed by unimaginable terror. What should I say? Or what shouldn't I say? Should I trust her or not? Rika, who are you really? Keiichi, please get a hold of yourself. Please listen to me. Rika grabbed me by the hand and shook it. My body swayed about at Rika's mercy. Keiichi, you did what you did for Satoko's sake, right? Even I understand that. How can she understand? Rika, how do you know? What do you know? How much do you know? Even though I wanted to ask, I just couldn't do it. If I ask any leading questions, I'll be digging my own grave. Keiichi, even if you and the others did something you shouldn't have, that doesn't matter right now. But Satoko, we need you to get Satoko back right away. The look in Rika's eyes told me that she knew everything. It looked like a universe was spreading in her big black pupils. Deep, dark eyes that could see through everything in the entire world. It was a rather mature expression, the likes of which I never would have imagined coming from Rika. Rika, have I done something that can never be taken back? The urge to ask her that welled up inside of me. Rika, Keiichi, what you did isn't a problem. But Satoko, please bring Satoko back right away. Otherwise, if I don't bring her back, what will happen? I finally peeled away the skin clogging my throat to utter a few words. But Rika came back with an aggressively strong answer. Satoko will die. I felt the pain of being stabbed in the heart. Why? What does that mean? I somehow managed to ask the question while losing my voice, but Rika didn't answer. If you're still saying that after everything I've told you, I guess you really don't know, Keiichi. I never would have expected this. In the end, she said that in a pathetic voice, devoid of sorrow or compassion. Hold on. Something terrible going down? Is our peaceful, everyday, ideal future getting closer to an impossible fantasy? All the everyday problems is a question mark. No good ending with question marks. Only suffering. My unease about the future was growing stronger and stronger. Once I recognised how irrational I was acting, I started to calm down. Rika, Shion should know where Satoko is. Right, I've decided what I'm going to do, because it brought the end really warm, and also I have a fair chunk of work that I need to finish for tomorrow. I am going to go to the end of this chapter, then we're going to leave it on a cliffhanger of this chapter and finish it off next week. My voice was unexpectedly calm. Rika was sincerely concerned about Satoko. Hearing her sad voice a moment ago convinced me that she had no intention of deceiving me to gain information. In that case, we should let Rika help us search for Satoko. Reina and I are about to head to Angelmore to talk to Shion. Would you like to come with us, Rika? Understood. She responded with a powerful nod. Then Rika and I returned to Reina. Naturally, Rika's presence made Reina extremely cautious. Her expression completely changed when she learned that Rika was simply concerned about Satoko. So the three of us headed to Angelmore together. She's not here? My hysterical voice caused a few customers to turn back. Sorry that you came all this way for that. Shion isn't working today. She didn't come yesterday either. The store manager behind the cash register apologised to us. This man was apparently Shion's uncle. Hey, wait. She didn't come yesterday? That can't be true, can it? Shion said she was heading to work as soon as she left the library yesterday. When she's scheduled to come to work again? Keiichi. Reina tugged at my sleeve. We don't have time to waste asking about when she'll be work again. Reina turned towards the store manager. Excuse me, we have important business we need to take care of at Shion's house. Could you tell us where she lives? Important business? The store manager furrowed his brow, but I pushed him as well. Shion asked us to do this for something for her, but I don't know much about it. Desperation, I concocted a story that we don't know the details. Shion told me not to give her address out to anyone. I know you're her friends, but I gave her my word. Nevertheless, the store manager wouldn't agree with us. But we can't turn back now. A person's life is at stake. It really needs to happen today. We need to see her and talk to her directly. Please. Rika deeply bowed her head, desperately pleading to him. When the store manager saw that, he seemed to relent. He let out an exasperated sigh. All right, but don't let her know that I told you, okay? Understood. The store manager went back to his office. Then a short while later, he came back and handed me a memo containing Shion's address. Thank you very much. Thank you. I won't forget your kindness. That seems a little dramatic. The store manager scratched his head in embarrassment. By the time he looked up, we were already gone. Shishibone City, Kamishiki. We travelled on foot while looking at the map and comparing it to the note. Eventually, we reached a classy high-rise apartment on the outskirts of Okonomiya. The imposing entryway made it clear that this facility was only meant for wealthy people. Somozaki family sure is rich, huh? Took a look around. Seemed fitting for Shion to live in such a fancy apartment. Naturally, the Somozaki family had the financial strength and power to match this place. But beyond that, I felt like the atmosphere of this bustling apartment seemed to match strangely with Shion's personality. However, there were no signs of any people near the apartment, and there were no children playing nearby. None of the residents had any laundry hanging on the veranda. It seemed like most of the apartments were empty. The whole area felt cold. I suddenly felt like I had no right to stand here, even if this place was part of Shion's everyday life. Says Somozaki, this must be where Shion lives. I took a deep breath and reached for the buzzer at the front of the door. The door suddenly swung open and smacked me in the forehead. An unfamiliar man looked down at me. A man with an imposing presence, wearing dark clothes and sunglasses. At a quick glance, I could tell this wasn't a man with a reputable occupation. I needed to be careful. Pardon me, I didn't expect someone to be there. The man politely nodded his head. Then, as the stranger began to walk away, Reina noticed him checking the Somozaki mailbox and decided to call out to him. Excuse me, is this where Shion lives? Reina asked timidly. That's right, but do you need something from Shion? How is this man related to her? No way. Definitely not, my dude. Is Shion here? Rika asked the man a question without hesitation. No, Shion hasn't come home yet. Where did she go? Well, that I don't know. Please, excuse me, I'm in a hurry. The man casually stepped back and started walking away from the apartment complex. Would it be okay for us to wait here for Shion? Feel free to. Who is this man? He's close enough to Shion that he can answer questions about her without hesitation. Could he be her father? Either way, he seemed to have ties to the underworld. He was a dangerous man. In that case, we should wait here for Shion. Maybe she hasn't come home from school yet. Can't be helped. Rena and Rika, we called Recon for some reason. Rika decided to take a seat in front of the entrance. The door was locked, so we couldn't get to the elevator unless a resident unlocked it for us. Keiichi, would you like a candy? Rika pulled a chocolate out of her bag. To be honest, I was in no mood to eat something sweet, but I'll take one. I made up my mind and decided to sit next to them. I wonder how long we've been waiting. The sky was getting dark. Suddenly, I had footsteps approaching and immediately raised my head. When everyone noticed my reaction, we all stood up at once. Who is it? Maybe Shion's finally here? How should I act when I see her? First thing I needed to ask was where she went, since she clearly wasn't going to her job, and also about Tsutoko's whereabouts. At this point, we couldn't let her keep delaying the answer. We needed to hear it directly. I held my breath as I looked in that direction. However, the hope that Shion was heading home was immediately washed away. The person looks far too big to be Shion. And maybe the man from earlier is coming back? But we were quickly disappointed when we could make out the man's silhouette and hear his voice. Oh my, what are all of you doing in a place like this? That voice. A chill ran through my entire body. I need to stay away from this guy. He's our enemy. He's our enemy. We'll meet again, Maebara. Actually, I was just thinking of heading home. Keiichi. Rena quickly chased after me. Rika also started walking away, while wiping the dust off her skirt. I was looking for you, Maebara. Ryugu. Oh my, it looks like you've got a new member today. What is the head of the Furude family doing here? Hoo-hoo. His voice disgusted me. I wanted to get out of here right away, acting like a know-it-all, like a savage beast slowly killing the small animals in his path. Let's go, Rika. I grabbed Rika by the hand and started walking fast. I wish she made no effort to stop us, but kept slowly walking in our direction. Shion still hasn't come back yet, huh? Where could she have gone? Maybe she's out shopping or something? I put on an unconcerned act and kept walking. However, isn't that strange? She hasn't come home in a long time. A very long time. Since the night of the festival. Since the night of the festival? My feet came to a halt. I couldn't bring myself to take another step. My legs wouldn't move, like they were frozen solid. What was he talking about? Didn't we all meet Shion at the library yesterday? Well, it's strange, isn't it? She was working at her part-time job on the day of the festival, and we met face-to-face at the library yesterday, and yet she never went home. What on earth could that mean? That can't be true. Rena and I exchanged glances. We definitely met her yesterday. You saw her yourself, didn't you? You sure you're not mistaken? Believe me, I wish I was. Did you happen to see her scooter in the parking lot? Scooter? I wish he had a nasty, arrogant smile on his face. Then he slowly continued. Shion travels everywhere on her scooter, like when she travelled to Hinamizawa the day before yesterday. The paralysis binding her entire body grew even stronger. Shion took Tsukio and brought her back here, no doubt about it. But, oh wait, how did Oishi know that Shion went to Hinamizawa the day before yesterday? Did Oishi already verify that Shion came back here on her scooter? Does this guy know everything? Possible. It's ridiculous. How? All the blood in my body ran cold. If I panic here, I'll just be playing into his hands. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. I snuck a quick glance at Rika and Rena. They were both nonchalantly staring at Oishi. These were my club members after all. They've had plenty of opportunities to perfect their poker faces. Shion went to Hinamizawa the day before yesterday? Rena calmly struck back. I don't know either. It's just a hypothetical. However, I noticed a critical detail a little while ago. That scooter was the cause of my misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I realised all too late that I was biting at Oishi's bait. I let the panic show on my face. Maebara, seems you have an interest in my misunderstanding? Not really. Regardless of what you're thinking, none of that matters to us. I gave the strongest response I could muster. What kind of face am I making right now? Please, stay calm. Oishi seemed amused by something and let out a laugh. Even if you hadn't asked, I would have told you. That wasn't Shion's scooter. It was the same model, but the license number was registered in another prefecture. Do you understand what I'm getting at? I don't understand anything. So confused. confused. I wish she was mocking me, no doubt about that. But when I calmly considered the information I wish she was telling me, it raised a lot of questions. Shion's scooter wasn't here. That meant Shion never rode her scooter back here, which in turn meant that Shion never brought Satoko here. At the very least, that meant the safest place to hide Satoko that Shion referred to wasn't her apartment. Then, where did she go? Where did she take Satoko? Maybe it's already too late for Satoko. Rika's voice trembled as she squeezed that out. Too late for what? Rika, if you know something, tell me. What should I do? Where should we go to find Satoko and Shion? At any rate, there was no point staying here. That much was self-evident. It's time to stop playing around with Higurashi. Excuse me. I started walking again, to get away from him. Reina and Rika followed my lead. Thank you. I'll wait here a little longer for Shion. His nonchalant voice clung to me from behind. Shut up, you filthy old man. I couldn't find my frustration. In the depths of my heart, I was cursing at Oishi while riding my bike back to Hinamizawa. Should we check Satoko's house? I simply nodded to Reina's suggestion. Besides, where else could we go? As I'd worried about Satoko's whereabouts, somewhere in my heart I'd assumed she was in Shion's house. Right, I'm going to do little maths as a treat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Okay, doke. Right. Cool. Yes, we're good. If she wasn't there, then the only other option was Satoko's house. And yet, didn't Rika already tell us that there was nobody at the Hojo house? I had a bad feeling about this. Alarm bells were ringing inside my head. Don't go, Keiichi. You better not go to the Hojo house. There might be something there you're better off not seeing. Satoko, Shion, where have you gone? Thoughts of desperation hounded me as we headed towards her house. I kind of want to keep going, but I also think this is a really, really good cliffhanger to leave on. Also because I have work that I need to do. And we will pick this up tomorrow. So I am going to say thank you very much for watching. It is very, very much appreciated. And I do hope that you enjoyed. I will be streaming the NieR remake, whatever it's called, reboot make, whatever they're calling it. I'll be streaming NieR tomorrow. It's my very first time ever playing it, on Saturday rather. On Saturday I will be streaming NieR. It is my very first time playing it and I am very excited because I know I have only played Automata and the only experience of NieR I have is from the raids in FF14, so I'm excited to make a start on it. Then on Sunday it'll be Destiny 2, where as usual we'll be focusing on quests and challenges and all that good stuff, trying to catch up before the end of the season. Then on Tuesday with Final Fantasy XIV, assuming I'm not drowning in work again, where we will be doing our usual raids and roulettes and hanging out. And the next Thursday we'll be finishing off Higurashi When They Cry, Tsukiotoshi, and finding out where, oh where, Shion and Satoko have gone. So take care, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Do have an excellent wonderful evening and be excellent to each other. And I shall see you guys on Saturday.